Welcome everyone to the January 5th Kitty Hawk Town Council meeting. It's 6 o'clock and we'll get started. For those who are able, please stand and join me in a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. Let's see. All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up for public comment tonight?
Yes, ma'am, we do. And we also have a email that would like, email from a citizen who would like to have this read into the record.
Okay.
So this email was from Ken Goldsmith and Ashley Goldsmith of 504 First Light Run. We are full-time residents of Kitty Hawk who own property in Kitty Hawk Woods close to the site of the proposed RV park expansion. We are unable to attend tonight's town council meeting and request that this letter be read into the public record at the meeting. We urge you to deny the special use permit for an RV park at 4352B The Woods Road. This proposed development will cause serious public health and safety concerns and lead to significant environmental damage. Furthermore, the application fails to meet specific requirements of the town code and is contrary to numerous policies of the CAMA land use plan. As you know, almost the entire parcel is in the AE flood zone, subject to a high likelihood of flooding. Any home proposed for this area would have had to have been elevated, but because these are RVs, our code simply requires that they be moved every 180 days or be ready for highway use. The applicant essentially concedes that these RVs will be semi-permanent fixtures with absentee owners who will visit when convenient. It is difficult to believe that all the RVs on site will be moved in the scant time available before a major storm hits Kitty Hawk. It seems much more likely that some or many will remain to be flooded and or destroyed, creating a major public health and safety problem. Furthermore, serious environmental damage to both the immediate neighborhood and the town as a whole will result from this proposed RV park expansion. The proposal creates massive site clearing, including the removal of almost every tree on 3/4 of the upland area of the site. This kind of intensive development is directly counter to the CAMA land use plan's accommodate and adapt goals for this property and is specifically contrary to policies 4.1 and 4.3. In addition, the applicant's proposal to build numerous separate septic systems rather than the single community sewage disposal system required by the town code and not to provide a sewage dumping station will inevitably result in future water pollution that will be a burden on all Kitty Hawk residents. Building a slew of new septic systems in an area that the land use plan highlights as especially vulnerable to septic system failure is a sure path to disaster. While the septic plan may satisfy the county environmental health department, it will substantially increase water pollution in the local waterways and add to an already disastrous pollution levels in Kitty Hawk Bay and the Albemarle Sound. As noted earlier, this proposal violates several specific requirements of the town code: no community sewage disposal, no sewage dumping station, a dead-end road exceeding 1,000 feet, no cul-de-sac, Perhaps more importantly, it violates the spirit and the intent of the CAMA land use plan that citizens of Kitty Hawk worked so hard to develop. We believe that this proposed use is both inappropriate and unsuitable for this location, and we urge you to deny the application for the special use permit on the grounds that it does not satisfy any of the special use findings that you are required to make under section 42-100B8 of the code. Thank you for the opportunity to express our concerns about this application. We hope that you will deny the special use permit and protect the health, safety, and environmental quality of our community. Ken and Ashley Goldsmith.
Sorry, do you mind repeating the address of that, please?
504 First Light Run.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
I do not have anyone else currently signed up for public comments.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second. Second from Pete. Okay. Next. Hold on. We're going to move to planning. Oh, all in favor, excuse me. All in favor.
Aye.
Okay, now we can move on to planning. Next is a public hearing. Since this is a quasi-judicial hearing, we need to swear in all of those who may wish to speak during this public hearing.
And that would include any member of the public who is going to speak. If you would, just come up. I think we'll probably do like we did last time, do everything at once. So yeah, if anybody from the public wants to speak at this hearing, please do come up and be sworn in.
And members of the public too, who wish to speak at during the public hearing, come in and be sworn in as well. Just want to make sure we're clear on that, so everyone has the opportunity. Okay? So raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you shall give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Casey, would you like to give us an overview of the judicial hearing process,
Sure,
please?
absolutely. So, as you said, it's quasi-judicial. So we're dealing with a scenario where you've already seen one formality. It's a little different than a typical public hearing. We've got sworn testimony that's occurring. The evidence, the reason for that is the evidence presented has to be substantial, it has to be material, and it has to be competent. So you guys, like a judge would be in a courtroom, are the deciders of what is substantial, what's material, and what's competent. Just a very brief breakdown. Substantial would be any evidence that you guys tend to feel shows or proves the elements and the requirements, specifications within our code concerning this particular application. In other words, whether or not the evidence presented does satisfy those conditions and specifications. Material would be anything relevant to the subject matter at hand. Competent is usually where we get into the grayest area, and that's where you guys have to make those decisions. I'll give you an example. So we are, again, quasi-judicial. We're stepped up from where we generally would be in a public hearing. So, for example, someone wants to testify as to land value or devaluation of land. Well, you guys are entitled to accept whatever evidence or give whatever weight you want to it. But what the court cases say is, well, then that person should be a certified land appraiser, for example. They should be a professional in the field of land valuation. So that traffic studies, same thing. You would need to be an engineer who generally practices in the area of traffic studies. So that's just an example. But, you know, you guys, like I said, are the finders and the decision makers here. So you get to decide what you believe is substantial, competent, and material tonight.
Thank you, Casey. Do I have a motion to go into special public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We are now in public hearing. Rob, can you provide an overview of what you'll be talking about?
And I won't read word for word through the packet that was submitted to the council, but I'll give a brief overview and then turn it over to the applicants to let them present. So the proposal, the applicant's requesting an approval of special use permit to develop an expansion of the existing preserve RV park on their vacant parcel located at 4352B, the Woods Road. This is in the BR3 zoning district. RV parks are permitted as a special use permit regulated by the standards of Chapter 42, Division 4 of Town Code. Some of the aspects I'll highlight on going through the different standards and requirements. 42-619.5 requires an approved community sewage disposal system. The applicant has proposed separate septic systems, one for the bathhouse and one for every 2 RV spaces. Dare County Environmental Health has evaluated those sites, and the applicant has provided documentation that it is suitable for what they're proposing. The park standards for the cul-de-sacs and dead-end roads says it shall not exceed 1,000 feet in length, measured from the entrance of the center, measured from the entrance to the center of the turnaround. Any road designed to be permanently closed shall have a turnaround at the closed end with a minimum right-of-way diameter of 80 feet. The new access road, which is shown on the monitor up here, is 675 feet in length, measured from the property boundary. If measured from the overall park entrance out by the Woods Road, the length of the existing access road plus the proposed would be approximately 1,090 feet. And rather than the 80-foot diameter right-of-way turnaround, the applicant has proposed the T or the hammerhead-shaped terminus that you see on the site plan. This has been forwarded to the fire department for their review. No concerns were relayed to me based on that turnaround design. Let's see, one of the other requirements, each park shall provide recreation areas to serve the needs of the anticipated users. The site plan does indicate open space area approximately 70 by 75 feet labeled as a recreation area. I did hear from Dare County Environmental Health today. That area is shown as a drain field for the bathhouse, and Environmental Health indicated that that would not be, for their purposes, not be able to be used for the recreation area, that it would be grassed and mowed occasionally and roped off to prevent damage to the systems. Let's see, RV parks shall provide at least one sewage dumping station approved by County Environmental Health. As I mentioned, the septic systems have been proposed throughout the park instead of a singular sewage dumping station, which effectively serves as multiple sewage dumping stations. And again, Environmental Health has evaluated the site and determined that it would be suitable for what they're proposing. Camping units shall be used as temporary quarters or shelter during periods of recreation, vacation, leisure time, or travel, and should not be used for permanent living quarters. That would be, I guess, an ongoing condition of approval if the special use permit is approved. The project narrative indicates that the intent is to rent spaces on a long-term, monthly basis so that their patrons can leave the RV for longer periods of time for convenient visits to the area. As long as the RVs are not in one place for greater than 180 days, or if they remain highway ready, this would be compliant with the flood damage prevention ordinance. Section 42-620 requires that park operator to keep an accurate register containing a record of all RVs, owners, and occupants of the park. That register shall contain the name and address of the owner and each occupant, license number and state of issue of each licensed vehicle, the space number in which the RV is parked, date of entering the park, and date of exiting the park. I included in the staff report that if council does approve the special use permit, that a potential condition of approval would be that the park operator would periodically submit that park register to the town so we can ensure compliance with that it's being more of a recreational use than turning into any kind of long-term residential. For the land use plan, the property is located in both the accommodate and adapt and the acknowledge and conserve character areas. Those descriptions from the land use plan were included in your packet. The accommodate and adapt character area is described by the plan as an area highly vulnerable to flooding, but may occasionally include new elevated structures. Acknowledge and conserve is described as low-lying areas that are not suitable for development or areas that are susceptible to natural hazards and inundation. And again, those inserts from the land use plan go into a little more detail than just those brief one-liners. Following policies and objectives relevant to this application in the Campbell Land Use Plan. Policy 3.1, manage land use and development to minimize primary and secondary impacts on resources and existing residents through standards for development. Policy 4.1, encourage the preservation of maritime forests, floodplains, marshes, and wetlands through development regulations and land protection initiatives. Policy 4.3, enhance tree cover in the town of Kitty Hawk. 5.1, utilize the future land use map, storm surge maps, flood exposure maps, wetlands assessments, and projected sea level rise and flood vulnerability data when considering rezoning and development requests. And policy 12.1, continue to be a destination for family-oriented tourism. The special use findings, as listed in section 42-100B8 of the zoning ordinance. In order to approve the application, town council must make findings that the proposed special use does not materially endanger the public health or safety, does meet all required conditions and specifications, will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or be a public nuisance, and will be in harmony with the area in which it's located and be in general conformity with the comprehensive plan. With that, that'll be it for my overview. I can turn it over to the applicants.
Thank you.
And I'll be on it if there's any questions for me.
Do you guys, yeah, I was gonna say, do you guys first, do you have any questions for Rob?
I do. Rob, can you, the definition, just as you were reading, it says common sanitary and laundry facilities. Can you clarify laundry facility?
The ordinance doesn't have a specific definition for the laundry facility in there. I guess basic understanding would be an area to wash and dry clothes.
Correct. I mean, I looked up the definition, and that is what it does consist of: a wash machine and dryer. Is there anywhere on here that was designed for that?
Not that I have seen in the narrative of the plan. Possibly the applicant could speak more to that.
Okay, all right, that's it.
That actually makes a question for me. Isn't there a certain amount of water per gallons per day for a laundry facility?
That would be health department. It may increase the septic needs, but septic or the health department, they do all the septic permitting, so
That would be in charge of laundry?
yeah, they would have to make all compliant with their standards.
Thank you.
And Rob, for the public's edification, when you say health department, you're referring to Dare County?
Dare County Environmental Health, yeah.
Rob, has this plan or a similar plan of this nature been presented to the town in the past?
Not this plan. I believe it was about 10 years ago or so. I think I looked at it in September of 2015. There was a plan for a mobile home or manufactured home park in this area. That ended up being denied based on, there's a specific requirement in our ordinance for manufactured home parks that they would not be located in flood-prone areas and be all within the AE flood zone. That was the basis for that denial. That same standard is not written into the RV park standards and ordinances. So that's the only other proposal that has occurred in the past 11 years anyways.
Okay.
Rob, I know you mentioned the moving of the recreation facility. Is there any zoning, town, municipal guidance on what can go on top of a septic field?
That would be regulated by the Environmental Health Department as well. I think it would be very limited. I'm not an expert on that.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Is there an attorney present for the applicant? I didn't want to sell you short. If you have any questions for Rob, please do.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, I'm Bob Cornick from the Bro Law Firm in Chapel Hill. I'm representing the applicant, the developer here. Rob, it's nice to see you in person. I just have a couple of questions.
Sure. Do you mind speaking to the mic?
And it's really with respect to the communication you had today with environmental health. Who was it at the environmental health office that you spoke to?
It was Josh Coltrane.
Josh Coltrane, and had you reached out to him and he called you back, or?
Yes, I reached out to him based on a question that I received.
Who did you receive the question from?
Councilman Tillett.
Very good. I also want to thank you. I want to make one other comment. There was a letter that was read into the record here today. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. I have no opportunity to cross-examine whoever sent that letter about standing or about any of the other issues or expertise that they may have or may not have. And so I object to that letter being part of the record that you consider for this hearing, because we don't know if it's not substantial, it's not competent, it's not material. There's no ability to cross-examine. So I just want to make sure I get that on the record.
So you guys, again, as I said, are decision makers. I will note a couple things here. The letter was asked to be read into, I think, public comment, not this particular hearing. So there's one issue, as I see it. The other, Mr. Hornick is correct. It's a quasi-judicial proceeding. As I said, we step up in the formalities. If you want to speak, you've got to meet certain requirements, at least as far as what you guys consider to be substantial material competent, but being here is part of the process. So just as with any other witness, they can be cross-examined by Mr. Hornick. Now, he's asking, if I'm not mistaken here, is that you guys essentially disregard what was said. So if that's something you guys want to do, then that is certainly something that's within your discretion. So
But that letter should not influence our decision.
that is what Mr. Hornick is saying.
I
Yes.
realize you can't unring the bell, but I just want to make sure that I have on the record my request that you not consider that as part of your consideration on the application.
Okay, thank you.
And I have one other last kind of administrative point that I want to make, and it's a little bit delicate, I suppose, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I want to ask the board, you're a council, right? Ask the council.
Same thing, Council.
I represent a bunch of different towns, and there are boards, councils, aldermen, so it gets confusing. But in a quasi-judicial hearing especially, and as elected officials, I want to make sure that we do a conflict check. And that is that no member of the council, none of the elected officials have any conflict of interest with respect to this application. There's a specific statutory definition of conflict of interest. So with respect to the governing board member shall not vote on any legislative decision regarding the development regulation adopted pursuant to this chapter. Where the outcome of the matter being considered is reasonably likely to have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact on the member. A member of any board exercising quasi-judicial functions pursuant to this chapter, this is chapter 160D of the general statutes, shall not participate in or vote on any quasi-judicial matter in a manner that would violate the person's constitutional rights to an impartial decision maker. So I just want to make sure, I do this at every hearing that I attend, to make sure that we consider whether anybody's got a conflict of interest, and if so, put it on the record. And have the council decide whether the conflict requires recusal or excusal. So that's the last of my preliminary stuff. What I'd like to do at this point is introduce John DeLucia, who I think you all know. And he's
Bob, if I may, just real quick, do any of you council members feel as though you have a conflict of interest?
I think this board would have already recused itself had it had a member that would.
Just for the record, as Mr. Hornick said, is the answer consensus no?
I do not.
Deny.
Thank you. Perfect.
So at this point, I'd like to introduce John DeLucia, who's the design engineer on the project, who can talk to you a little bit about the application, about the plans, about compliance with some of the requirements of the ordinance, et cetera.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's nice to be in front of you again. My name is John DeLucia. I'm an engineer. I've been practicing engineering here on the Outer Banks for 40 years now. I'm a citizen of Kitty Hawk, and I've done engineering for y'all on occasion, so we appreciate that. We spent a lot of time early on looking at a feasibility study for this campground. We laid some things out. We talked with the chief of police to see if there was any issues going on back there. I met with Rob several times. We wanted to make sure that we brought a product that was acceptable to the town. We've met the ordinance. Dylan, I'm not sure why Josh would have said that we couldn't have a passive recreational on top of that drain field. I mean, we have the drain fields for the Gay Patrick School under the football field. We have the drain fields for the Episcopal Church in Southern Shores under the playground for the daycare center. So we'll get that worked out. There's other areas on the plan where we could show that we could have other passive recreational uses. We met with the health department. It was felt that the multiple smaller drain fields were more suitable than a large drain field that they found. And we also designed the drain fields to accommodate the larger trailers, 240 gallons per RV. The state standards are only 125 gallons per RV. So we've gone up and beyond because we know that the RVs that people are driving today are carrying more than 2 people in actuality. We added extra parking spaces so that there wouldn't be a parking issue on the site. We have preserved over 25% of the land, but we're not touching it. We had all the oak trees and the nice hardwoods located on the property, and we've tried to work around most all of them. We have left a 30-foot buffer along Ash Creek. We have provided the bathhouse. We can't put a laundry machine in it. Laundry machines, depending on what type of machine, they can go from, typically what goes in an RV park is not a commercial washing machine. It's typically what we would consider like our residential washing machines. And they are not producing a whole lot of wastewater these days. They're being very efficient because they need it. We have raised the roadway elevations and the pad elevations up to above the base flood elevation. So any of the RVs that are parked on the site will be above the AE4. It's not above the community flood, which is 8, which we know that. We understand about the mobility of the units. We understand that they have to be movable, they have to be roadworthy. The owner, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, has run the existing RV park there for the last 10 years. They've cleaned it up over the last 10 years. I can remember when that was not a very desirable piece of property to go onto years ago. But what they've done seems to have really dressed it up. We're next door to Miss Baum's property, which doesn't look very good. I can just say that. We're kind of tucked back in to the Ash Swamp area, back to and this backs up to the existing trailer park that's there, the existing RV park that is there. In a minute, I'm going to call up Greg Bourne, who will tell you a little bit about the value or lack of that the proposed plan will not materially endanger or damage the adjacent property owners' values. With that, I'm going to stop and ask any questions.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
John, when you met with Josh Coltrane, did he indicate to you that this project would be approved by Dare County Environmental Health?
We already have permits.
You had the permits
We have
from,
permits, we have approval.
And the permits for the approval for the soil evaluation.
Yeah, the soil evaluation. We've been meeting with Robert Preston on this.
understood, so you have soil evaluations, but you don't have a full approval yet, correct?
We have the soil evaluations. We have provided these plans to the county. The only thing that they'll need to do is purchase the actual septic permit to install.
Right, but the soil samples would indicate if you needed 10 inches of fill, 20 or whatever, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then my next question would be, why would it not be considered a commercial use on laundry facility if it's a commercial use by right? Or not by right, but by what it is?
What I'm saying is we wouldn't be putting in a commercial machine.
Gotcha.
We'd be putting in a residential machine that doesn't use as much water,
Gotcha.
basically.
So again, I'm going to ask the same question again. You have done site evaluations, but you don't have an actual septic permit yet.
We have approval.
We have an approval email and we have a soil evaluation.
All you got to do
They would
is,
actually have to issue, I believe, 18, we have 18 systems, so it's 18 permits.
okay, so let me ask another way. You go down there tomorrow and get all 18, as long as you had it paid for them, you get all 18 tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, he has reviewed the designs and gone through the plans.
Speaking of, there's Mike Morway. He's a professional engineer here in North Carolina, has worked with me for
24 years.
24 years. He's very good at what he does.
John, for the sake of the record, do you adopt his answers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. DeLucia, I have a question. During your design, did you take into account the fact that the town ordinance states every park shall be provided with an approved community sewage disposal system? And I heard what you said about the individual systems and they're oversized, and that's great. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
But the ordinance states shall be a community sewage disposal system. And in my mind, that's a centralized collection and treatment system or a package treatment plant.
We were more concerned, I'm more concerned about failures of those larger systems. You know, if that system that size fails, then the whole park closes down. If you have a failure of a smaller system that's a gravity system, that's designed for twice the amount of sewage that should be expected to go there, I find that that's a better design. And talking with the health department, they felt it was a better design too. If we did central sewage on this, we'd be cutting every tree out on this property. You know, we wouldn't be able to work with them because you know how it is.
Mm-hmm. My concern is that there's a spot that, or a handful of spots that end up being the favorite spots, and they're going to get overusage, and then 5 spots down, you're going to get an old couple that barely uses any water. In a centralized system, you get equalized flow through that. One's using a bunch, another one's not using that much, and it levels out.
Well,
I have concerns that if it's concentrated with just 2 spots like that, you might get a peak flow in some of them.
That's why we've oversized the system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, rather than setting them up for 100, 120 gallons per campsite, we set them up for 240 gallons per campsite. So each one of those systems is capable of handling 480 gallons, with 2 of them connected to one.
It's 240 gallons per day.
Yes, per day.
So those are 480 gallons per day systems you design.
Yes, sir.
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
During your design, did you notice that the road length, now the ordinance states it's measured from the park entrance?
Well,
And-
I would ask you where the park entrance is. It's not the Woods Road, or it's not Twyford Street.
Okay, so
You've got to go
what's your
across Miss
interpretation
Baum's.
of the entrance?
Well, you've got to go across Miss Baum's property.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you would actually start the measurement on the south side of Miss Baum's property that has the little trailers on it right there. And it would be under the 1,000 feet.
Now, I understand that, but my concern with that would be if you keep measuring what's new, what's to stop a developer from going 1,000 foot, another 1,000 foot, another 1,000 foot, every single submittal? Before you know it, we've got a mile-long road and you're only measuring from the new stuff.
We don't have any more land to go into there, Mr. Tillett.
That was a hypothetical question, not case specific.
But, you know, when we looked at that, when you look at where you actually enter the park, when you pass Miss Ball's trail,
Okay.
okay, that's under 1,000 feet. Because I think you were measuring it out to the road.
I can pull it on the map, I think I measured from where you're referencing. I can pull it, GIS and pull it.
And the second portion of that requirement is all roads designed to be permanently closed shall have a turnaround at the closed end with a minimum right-of-way diameter of 80 feet, more or less a cul-de-sac.
Right.
Is there a reason that you went with the hammerhead or the T design?
Just because the cul-de-sacs generate a whole lot more runoff and
Okay.
take a whole lot more land. And typically, a hammerhead is suitable for the fire department to be able to turn around in.
How about the garbage disposal trucks or the
Well, we have those-
RVs trying to turn around at the end?
I mean, we're not expecting to see garbage trucks go up past all these campsites.
They've got to get into the site, is that correct, to dump the dumpsters?
Right.
And the way the dumpster pad is oriented, you got to go into the site, turn around and come out, is that correct?
But we're not,
So you're turning around somewhere.
they're going to turn around and hammer it.
Mm-hmm. And my other concern is what's already been mentioned, the recreation area. I know the ordinance is vague on that. My thought is the intention of it is a playground or horseshoe pits or at a minimum picnic tables, a community gathering. But most of those features would require subsurface anchors, and nothing subsurface needs to go into that wastewater drain field. Is that correct?
Nothing should go into the drain field area, right?
Right.
I mean, we're not planning on putting a playground there, we're not planning on putting a swimming pool there.
Okay.
Yeah, we could put picnic tables on it, we could put
Mhm.
cornhole boards on it. We could do a little disc golf area on it. Like I said, I'm not sure why the health department made that comment, especially knowing that we put the drain field for Cape Hatteras School under the football field. You know, we had anticipated that would be passive. I mean, other things that could be done, I mean, this area, is that up on, can you see that? Can you see that, yeah, right there, that area?
Yes, sir.
We could use that for recreation, we could put a trail all the way around the property. We can comply with that, if the health department has an issue with us having some green space there. I mean, we all have drain fields in our backyards that we play on.
Right. I think, I would imagine there's exceptions, but the intent is no activity on a drain field, is my understanding.
The intent is no subsurface activity on the drain field area, that it would be just a green lawn.
Correct.
Right.
And my last point I just want to make public is the going back to the wastewater system. The ordinance does state an approved community sewage disposal system, approved, meaning that I would prefer to see permits in hand prior to making the decision on that.
Well, why would you want the developer to have to spend for 18 different systems, you're looking at $18,000 and buy permits before you give it your approval? That doesn't seem to make sense.
I understand it's a risk. I'm just reading the ordinance. That's all I'm doing. That's all the questions I have for right now.
I have one, John. In the ordinance, it says that the camping shall be temporary quarters and during recreation, vacation, leisure time, or travel, and shall not be used for permanent living quarters. And it says temporary, and then the applicant is, the very next sentence says rent spaces on long term. So it seems like to me that the ordinance was to make it so people didn't leave things for a long period of time. So leading up to the next question is, who's going to be responsible when all of a sudden we have a storm and half of them aren't moved? Who's going to be if they do end up in ash swamp? And I was on the board with the big definition of what was what. And I think this is the third time maybe. It might have been when I was on the planning board once before when George Wood and the crowd came years ago. So who's going to be responsible? At that time, we were worried about the stuff washing in. Now, if they're left, we have oils and everything. This is almost, to me, more of an environmental risk than we were when we were talking about the campers that basically were towed in on a vehicle and left, where now we're talking about vehicles being left permanently.
We're talking about, they have, I'm going to let Mr. Cashin discuss how they run their business and how they do screenings on people and that they rent by the month. Basically, it's a monthly rental that people can stay on there. And I'll let him address that in a few minutes. I think
But that, nowhere in there says you can't stay more than 1 month. Say I come in there monthly, I want to stay for 3 years and 36 months. I mean, that's permanent.
Well, the intention is not to have these as permanent residences. And that's the intention. When you look at the ordinance, of what is a permitted use on this property, multifamilies are permitted use on this property. I could put 24, 25, 3, 4 bedroom multifamily units on this piece of property. I think that's far more dangerous for flood prone issues, because you aren't going to have the cars moved, and you're going to have people up on stilts, obviously. But with the pads raised up to a 5-foot elevation, and knowing that the RVs are usually about that high off the ground, we're probably going to be somewhere around the 7 for the lower levels of those RV, if they're left there. I've seen water at my house up to 6.5. I've seen water at my house maybe up to 7, maybe, for a very short period of time. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I really don't. I mean, the way it's rated is.
May I follow up with Jeff, please? You say that's not the intention, but intentions can change, right?
Well, I think that the ordinance speaks to reporting and having records available. I think Rob addressed that to you just a little bit ago, and we're going to have to comply with it.
And then my question would be for, I guess, Casey next. Would you be willing to, I don't even know if you can do this, would you be willing to put a condition in there that it would be short-term and not used as long-term? Are you allowed to do?
Well,
because I don't like the word intention. My intention could be not to go to work tomorrow, but.
So the FDPO requires no greater than 180 days.
Okay.
Right? So in theory, if you can't be there more than 180 days, it's not permanent. I don't think anybody would be able to make the argument that something in existence for only 180 days is a permanent place of living.
Right.
But is your question, could you put a condition on there that says can't be rented for more than 30 days? Is that what you're...
No, if the 180 days kind of negates the permanent intention changing whatever I'm trying to say, then I'm okay with it.
Okay. Well, yes, from an ordinance perspective, from where I'm sitting, right, it's about enforcement. Would that provide us an enforcement and a mechanism to go and enforce someone who's there for longer than 180 days if we're aware? Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the code right now says that in that flood zone, you can go up to a year as long as it has trailerability, meaning at some point you have to take it off and get it inspected and get your inspection up there.
Yeah, tie downs and all kinds of stuff with hurricanes. That's all I have, sorry. Thank you.
I'm sorry, ma'am, did you have something?
Okay.
Okay. Just real quick, a couple of follow-ups. Back to the septic real quick. I understand nothing, subsurface activation. Are there any EPA guidance or anything on this? Since we're waiting for the permits to come back from Dare County, is there any EPA guidance on what should or shouldn't happen on a septic field?
There's state regulations on drain fields and
As far as which go on top, because most of the time when I've seen it, it's, you don't even want to put a picnic table necessarily. The more you compact it down, it gets compacted, and then you have problems. I'm okay with moving the recreation facility behind the bathhouse, but what we've got now is 18 separate systems in between trailers. Is there anything that's going to prevent people from walking on top of those, putting picnic tables, sinking volleyball nets in all those septic fields?
We wouldn't want volleyball nets.
You see what I'm saying? And because that's the only space between some of those trailers is a septic field. So you walk out your door and you got a septic field right there.
Well, actually, you got some repair areas and then septic fields.
Handful, so is it hit
Right,
or
so
miss?
you've got some open space where you're not on the drain field. No, I mean, we all have drain fields at our houses, and we all use our yards. And we all go out on our yards and recreate.
Sure.
You know, it's no different than that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you know, our septic tank absorption rate here on the Outer Banks at large is pretty intense. So anything we can do to shore up and protect that, especially next to a swamp and at an already low level area where I think the table was 30 inches down till you hit water, I think, if I recall on some of the soil samples. So
Yeah,
that's pretty.
And we're bringing.
So you got to bring a lot of fill on it, and
Yeah.
you know, I think we noticed that there was a lot of fill being brought in to adapt and probably make those pads, but then again, you know, part of the CAMA says that you shouldn't be adjusting the fill so much on some of these areas, especially in the wetlands.
Right, and Cameron
So-
has not taken jurisdiction of the swamp, if you will. They have agreed that as long as we stayed out of the 30-foot buffer, that we would be compliant with their rules and regulations. And we have kept out of that 30-foot buffer.
Okay, so that was my next question leading in, and so the areas of environmental concern that come in, what is that, 75 feet, I think, back from the water, if I'm not mistaken, that crosses over some of those septic pieces. Is that?
Septic can't be any closer than 50.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's in that AEC zone. How about on the road setback of 10 feet? You know, some of them cross over those western lots, the road setback.
We initially were told that they were going to take jurisdiction over the swamp. Then we were told that they were going to take jurisdiction as public trust waters, not CAM waters. So the 75-foot setback went away. Even though it's still shown on the plan, it has gone away since we've submitted the plan to you. And George Wood is working with us also on compliance with any of the CAM regulations.
Okay, so does that supersede, bless you, our land use plan, where our land use calls out the AEC lines as far as septic ones?
Our land use plan usually calls out the AC lines based upon what CAM calls them.
Okay. Okay. And then switching gears, we were talking a little bit earlier about the traffic, not having the presentation of the existing RV park, and the entrance shown here. There's only one entrance in and one entrance out. And how many lots are in the existing park? 30? Okay. And so there's no requirement, NCDOT or anything that you're aware of that requires more than one ingress, egress point for safety or anything like that?
No.
That's all I had, man.
I just have one more follow-up to it on Councilman Tillett's question. And I didn't really hear the whole question, so I apologize. When you're asking about the septic, the 18 permits or whatever, and you were speaking about that being expensive to do.
Especially if we don't have approval by this council.
Well, we can approve it and the health department can deny it and vice versa.
But the health department has already approved the plan that we've given them.
So that's where I'm confused by Councilman Tillett's question to you, why spend the money? Are you saying if we don't approve it, why go spend the money on the?
Right, exactly.
I
Why
got
spend
you.
$18,000 to buy permits that you can't use?
Gotcha.
And what I was pointing out is our ordinance requires approved,
Correct.
the way I read it.
I mean, I interpret it the same way.
Well, I mean, and that can be a condition of approval here.
Can you elaborate?
We're going to have permits.
Can you elaborate on Mr. Wood's findings? The 75 AEC is no longer valid?
Right. He talked to Ron Rinaldi, who's
Okay.
the director up there, and he's convinced Ron that it's still public trust water, so we still need to maintain the 30-foot vegetative buffer there. But we didn't necessarily need to go. We were prepared to go and do a CAM major permit on this.
Right.
And I don't know that DCM actually wants to do a major permit on this because of the workload right now. And so George has talked to Ron or Richard Rinaldi to allow us to just call it public trust waters and to stay out of the AEC and we'll be fine. We wouldn't need a CAM permit for this.
Stay out of the AEC?
Stay out of the 30-foot.
30 foot. The road width heading towards, starting from the park entrance to this, I know your road you've designed is 26, and I think that's great. Do you know?
We did 26 because of the 90-degree backing in. It makes it a little bit easier to be able to do that.
Do you know the minimum road width heading all the way to the Woods Road, if there's any portions that are less than 20 feet wide?
I don't think there are. Because when we did the development that was called Heron Harbor, the Heron Cove there years ago, that had, I don't know, 30 or 40 units on it, and a big wastewater system on it, we were clearing everything. And I know we put that first section of roadway in, because it was gravel, and it had to meet the provisions of the ordinance at that time, so I'm pretty sure it's 20, but not absolutely sure.
Is that everything from Mr.
I have a couple
DeLucia?
more. John, earlier you said that the entrance goes through Dot Baum's property. Is that a deeded easement for y'all to?
I believe it was.
Excuse me. Yes, that's it. So there is it's an easement, not a right-of-way? Okay. I don't know if I can go back to Rob. I'm just kind of wondering about this much development through an easement, if that, instead of a right-of-way. If this is going through a private piece of property on an easement, instead of, if they have a clear right-of-way.
They had road frontage, in other words?
The Dot Baum's property goes all the way across their entrance. And I guess I don't know the agreement, but I caught that when you said that when you were measuring, you're not starting because you said the park starts on Dot's property. So I'm wondering what kind of agreement, or if the town has an ordinance that you can't develop that much through an easement, or it is, you know, I remember when the RV park was going to be put in another area, they said they couldn't do it through an easement by the Judy Rand, and actually at that time the town took it over as a state street and enabled them to develop that property. But before then, there was a clause that they couldn't develop it because it was going through an easement and not a right-of-way. Now, that I'm not sure. That would be something I would like to ask
Rob
Casey.
actually would probably be a better
Okay, then if
receiver of that
if
question.
I maybe should ask it earlier. I didn't catch it until I called John.
I'm not aware of any ordinances that we have that would restrict the amount of development through an easement. The only thing I can think of with a prior, I think the prior ones that you might be talking about might be before I got here, but for subdividing land, you have to have road frontage on a public or private right-of-way. So a subdivision wouldn't allow like an easement to go through to access it. That's the only scenario I can think of.
That looks mighty.
And typically, Jeff, as long as the easement's wide enough to accommodate the minimum size roadway section, which the roadway's already there. I wouldn't see that that would be an issue. And I'm not aware of anything either.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes there's gentleman agreements and deeded ease, and that, you know, and yeah, okay. And the next question is, usually when we change a town ordinance, we have to go back and for a text amendment to change it. We just can't do it on a whim sitting
That's
here
correct,
tonight.
yes, that's right.
And it seems like to me that I've heard some things here that Dylan has brought up, that our code says that they have to have that, even though you and the health department sees otherwise. It seems like to me that we have a code that would have to go back through the text amendment process to say that if the county thinks it's better. That's just.
Wait a minute. These septic systems are gonna be owned by this gentleman right here, part of the community of the RV park. So it is a community system. They're not individually owned by the RV park. Whether it's a big treatment plant, we level all the trees on the property in order to put it in, or we try to fit in little small sort of drain fields, I think that it's still a community system there, in my opinion. In my opinion. I mean, it's not lots, it's not individual septic systems, it's individual modules of the community system.
John, I'm tacking on to that since Councilman Tillett and now Councilman Pruitt have brought up issues concerning the septic. So in Rob's report, he's got RV park shall provide at least one sewage dumping station approved by the health department. He then notes that septic systems have been approved throughout the park instead of a sewage dumping station. Now, he notes that it's effectively the same, but what's the difference in a sewage dumping system, which is required by this code, and a septic system?
We wouldn't necessarily have to put in any septic systems on this site at all. I mean, most of the trailers have holding tanks. When they come in, they dump them. When they leave, they dump them. What we have found, and what the state has found, is a lot of times those dumping stations are more toxic, if you will, than the individual stations, because people are holding up, and then dumping it. We have 18 dumping stations for the people that are going to be using the RV park. And then we have a drain field for the bathhouse, which is a conventional LPT system.
And a typical sewage dump. I've been to a few RV parks, not too many. I've taken road trips to football games with my friends. We don't really know what we're doing, but we've hooked up when we got to the RV park. As far as the dumping station, I think, is concerned, would that just be a spot where you would, a single location where many RVs would pull up, dump their sewage,
Or
and then
any RV.
or any RV? Is that the difference between what you're saying are these individual septic systems versus a prototypical sewage dumping station?
People that come to this RV park will be able to hook up their RVs, and we're looking at RVs that are bigger RVs, if you will. They won't need to have holding tanks. They won't need to have the chemical treatment that you have to put in the holding tanks to keep them smelling good and things like that, to keep them sanitary. We won't have that potential for additional pollution into the groundwater. Having a pump, I mean, we didn't eliminate all of those septic systems and have one pump station in there and a huge drain field. That's really not the right way to do this.
And that's what I was getting at. That would be, this one system would be the sewage dumping station.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was trying to figure out, the difference in the two.
So in this case, the septic provides a better long-term rental.
I mean,
So they don't have to every few days get up and move their RV to dump and then come back, and I've been to a few RV parks too.
It provides more of a buffer, and you have a smaller flow going into multiple areas rather than a larger flow. I mean, if we had to put a central system on there and put a wastewater treatment plant on there, we would be loading this at not 1 gallon per minute, but we would be loading it at 3 or 4 gallons per square foot or whatever. Because typically when you treat it higher, you don't have to put as big a drain field in. So, I mean, I think that with the health department and my conversation early on, they preferred the individual systems. They asked if we would go to 240 gallons per site rather than 120 gallons, which we agreed to do. And with two RVs on each system, if a system does have a problem, it doesn't put the whole park out of operation. If it does have a problem, it's easy to fix because it's a gravity system. Ray Casper can come in and fix it in half a day.
Which is good. The only con is the daily flow adjustments and making sure that, as Mr. Tillett said, some spots aren't overused other than others. Some would stay empty when nobody comes, but like you said, the tanks are larger, so that's helpful there.
I'm not trying to be hung up on this. 99 out of 100 people may not care. Any reason why y'all didn't attach a copy of the site evaluations from the health department?
We can provide those to Rob.
I mean, I'm talking about for tonight.
Nobody asked for it.
Mr. Moore actually did send that to me previously. Because Dare County Environmental Health is the approving authority on that, I didn't think it was
I mean,
necessary to include in our package.
Everything looked okay to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. DeLucia, I have another question.
Yes, sir.
The Rob mentioned an option for the park operator to periodically submit park register to the town, and that would state numerous things, more or less keeping track of length of stays and things like that. Is there a park manager office that you anticipated? Is there an employee for this development, or who is that person?
Right now, there's not, because we don't have a bathhouse on the first phase of what's there now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the bathhouse, we're gonna have to have somebody there daily to check on things. And I'll let Mr. Casson address that when he comes up and talks.
Okay. More to follow on that.
Yeah.
Casey, I have a question again.
Yes, sir.
And it's the same question. I'm just going to leave the septic out. Now I'll go to the cul-de-sac. That's a town ordinance. And once again, that's not a cul-de-sac. Can we change at a whim, or do you have to change the ordinance? Do we have to go back and go before the planning board and do a text amendment to change the ordinance? It's not that I agree or disagree with any. It's just in my time here, if something was not, if we were going against something that was in our ordinance, they went back and changed the ordinance through a text amendment so that it accommodated the ordinance. So
I mean, I tend to agree.
And, you know, that's just the way I have, you know, people have come for certain things and they've gone back and did a text amendment, and, you know, I'm just wondering why text amendments weren't done before the change, knowing that our ordinance required it.
And so I've got turnaround is what I'm reading here, at least in Rob's report. If you want to elaborate, because you wrote this, you did note that rather than the 80-foot diameter right-of-way turnaround, there's a T-shaped terminus. So is it that a cul-de-sac is required, or what's the differentiation you were making there, Rob?
So the language in the ordinance says, cul-de-sacs or dead-end roads shall not exceed 1,000 feet in length, measured from the entrance to the center of the turnaround. Any road designed to be permanently closed shall have a turnaround at the closed end with a minimum right-of-way diameter of 80 feet.
Right, and then, so what's when you stated rather than an 80-foot diameter right-of-way turnaround, well, do you see any deviation, if you will, based on this site plan from what our ordinance requires? I guess that's my question.
I guess the way that it reads, I mean, an 80-foot diameter turnaround.
If it's over 1,000 feet.
No, it's any road designed to be permanently closed, no road shall exceed 1,000 feet. Any road designed to be permanently closed shall have a turnaround at the closed end. So I think at that, I mean, it reads to me that 80-foot diameter cul-de-sac turnaround, I guess it's up to council if the intent of the ordinance is being met.
So that is your testimony that they do not meet, however, the 80-foot diameter right-of-way turnaround requirement? And I won't even say requirement because I don't want to influence. but the language within the ordinance says 80-foot right-of-way turnaround. Is that met based on this site plan?
It's not a road, it's a driveway.
The way it reads to me, that would not be an 80-foot diameter.
I mean, theoretically, we could make an 80-foot diameter by going down into that area to the east of the road there. There's enough room there to put one, but I just don't see any reason why to do that.
You
But
have to
John,
give up
we have to go
spots.
by the ordinance, John. It's not a matter of if we see a need. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but our ordinance don't. And in order for me to make a decision, the ordinances have to be changed. I have to go by the rules here. I can't just because somebody says they think it's a better idea. We have ordinances that we have to go by right now and procedures to change them if they're not, you know.
Okay, we'll put an 80-foot radius, diameter radius up there, bring it back to you.
You're going to have to give up 2 spots. You're going to have to give up spots.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not. I think this area that we talked about, maybe right here, if I took this roadway and looped it around here, I think I could get probably 80 feet in it. I mean, I think I probably could get it, but we're going to be adding more pavement to it. If that's what we want to do, make it a condition that we put an 80-foot radius there and we'll come ahead with it. If we lose a spot, we lose a spot.
Or is it easier to go for a text amendment? You see what I'm saying? I'm not picking the way you go. I'm just saying I'm left with a decision here that leaves me in a predicament that I have to prove something that
I understand.
is not in our code. And that's difficult for me to do, whether I like it or not.
Well, and I need to add to that because then we're setting the tone for something else down the road if we don't follow the ordinance. Right?
I've just never changed an ordinance without going through a text amendment, that's all.
Well, let me put a cul-de-sac on the end of that road there and then we'll be done with it.
And then we would have to go to the definition of the septic to see if that's also, you consider the separate ones.
I think the separate ones are part of the
Community,
community system.
and that would, I'm not sure who would decide that. Maybe we would have to have an engineer for the town decide that. It's just the ordinances that I'm having a problem with. They seem to be not complying. That's all I have.
I have a question for Casey. In light of what he just said, I mean, if he says he can add something to it, I mean, we still are, we're not really following procedure of a text amendment though, right? Are we allowed to say that's okay or not?
So that's a good question. So first and foremost, I will note to Councilman Pruitt's comments here that one of the requirements obviously is that all of the specifications and conditions of our ordinance be met. If there weren't shalls in front of all of these particular items, whether they're better or a better way to do it, a more modern way to do it, I wouldn't have as much heartburn. Not because of this particular project. Every special use permit is site specific. We're not setting a precedent. That's as to what could or could not be approved as far as RV parks in the future. But my heartburn is that if we start ignoring shalls in special use permit or quasi-judicial hearings, what precedent does just ignoring the shall create? That's my problem. Not what the shall, not what follows shall. What precedents are we creating by ignoring the shall? So that is my issue with it. Now, can you guys make as a condition, Rob, if you don't mind, real quick, this is more for you. If this council were to make as a condition, just for example, this turnaround issue, the 80-foot diameter turnaround, and they make a condition that that be shown on the, because there still has to be a commercial site plan, is that correct?
Correct, yep.
And you have to approve that, and then does that come back to council?
A larger change like that would probably be, rather than a conditional approval, I would say probably table it until they can show that, and then make a decision after.
And that's why I wanted you, that's why I wanted you up here. So that answers Councilman Hines' question, which is instead of just saying, here it's approved with this condition, you're saying you, as the town's planner, would prefer a tabling mechanism
Or
and then have it shown on a plan?
Right, have the condition of approval and then bring it back to verify that those conditions are being met.
So, okay, so kind of a hybrid, if you will, like, in other words, here's what we want to see. We're not gonna make a formal decision on approval tonight, but if you meet these conditions, bring us a plan back. Well, so tabling with conditions. Got it, okay.
Point of
Does
order.
that answer your question, David?
Yes, sir, it does.
Councilman Hines?
In a judicial hearing, are you allowed to introduce new evidence?
What do you?
So if you were to make adjustments and bring it back, is that considered new evidence?
Well, but it would be fine, because you guys make the decision to obey the hearing, A-B-E-Y, not O-B-E-Y. So, yes.
Well, and I don't want it to look like I'm,
Right, yeah.
well, I don't want to look like I'm for or against anything, but I'm following what Councilman Tillett's concerns are, Councilman Pruitt's concerns are. Mine have been answered, so, for the most part.
And like I said, just to Councilman Pruitt's initial points here, my biggest issue is the shalls and ignoring that and just saying approve as is if we've had our planner say, well, it actually doesn't meet what the ordinance says.
If it were to be tabled tonight, would they have to go back to the planning board, or can they just come right back?
No, it could come back. So laws now changed on that, so special use permits, planning board actually, you don't even have to have planning board review of it.
Right.
Okay, now we do, but the bottom line is the recommendations that are made by the planning board, they actually can't be considered by you guys as a rationale for approval or denial. So to answer, that's a long way of saying no.
I just didn't.
Doesn't have to go back.
I just didn't know if it kicked it back another 30 days plus another, 60 days to get back,
It
'Cause I don't wanna hold
essentially
people
kicks
up
it back
either,
until, that's the way you guys go. I would say it kicks it back until the conditions can be met or
But we're
shown.
going to have to address Commissioner Pruitt's concern about septic. And I mean, it's a community system. I mean, there's.
And that might
owned
not
by
be
one
all,
person.
but we're just hitting on the site plan. We haven't got into the debate where we think if we're dealing with environmental or the land use plan. I'm right now just concerned about your initial site plan. I'd hate for y'all to table this and then come back and do all these little changes to the ordinance and still, by some reason that you feel confident that everything's kosher, and then come in just because we said the cul-de-sac don't meet. There might be other factors that other council members considering the land use plan. They might not think that even though the county or whoever's giving you the permits for each septic tank, there might be somebody on here that doesn't like that thinks they'd rather have the bigger system. So even though you might can adjust everything, I'm not sure, that tabling is the right method. That's just me. I think that.
And just to make sure, so Councilman Pruitt, are you saying that if this were tabled, if conditions that meet all of the shalls within the ordinance were placed on this, if when it came back, council decided that, okay, well, actually, we don't believe that the intent and spirit of the ordinance is met by having this single dumping station, and that may be a reason for denial? Is that what?
Well, even though you
And the reason,
I mean,
and I'll say why I asked that, because if it meets the ordinance, we can't say it goes against the spirit and intent of the land use plan. In other words, that goes back to that's where changing our ordinance, if we don't like some of the items that are in it, if we feel as though our ordinance is outside or maybe antiquated or archaic in some way, not in compliance with our current land use plan, then that's either on us or a citizen, if you will, to make that proposition. But all I'm saying here is if you guys do table place conditions, they come back and meet the conditions, we can't say that them meeting these conditions just because it's not the best way to do it. We can't say it doesn't meet our land use plan, I guess. And I could have totally misread you. I just wanted to make sure that we everyone's understanding of that.
So let me understand, say if a council member here finds that the land use plan, we find that it's not in preservation of the maritime forest, floodplain, marshes, wetland through development regulations and land protection initiatives. If one of us was to try to hold their hat on that, is that legal or illegal?
So you're more going to maybe the location, the specific location, is that?
Well, any of the things in here, even though we asked to meet it on the site plan, can any of these items that on the land use plan, you know, once again,
Councilman Pruitt, if I can jump in for a second.
Yeah.
I think you're referring to the standards that council has to find for the special use permit. So we're still in the evidentiary hearing. We've only talked about the site plan part. We're
Right.
still going to hear about the adjacent
Okay.
property
Right.
values.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I was certainly going to say, let's move forward with the hearing. I just wanted
If
to,
you want to table it, that would be assuming that council finds everything else is okay. So we're still in the middle of that.
Right,
tonight.
okay.
So-
Okay.
And what would you prefer?
Oh,
No, no, no,
I was just trying to clear it up.
No,
Clear
I mean-
up it's not if what I prefer. It would be what the ordinance, what they prefer.
Well, if, but what
Not
I'm
just
saying
me.
is, if we could put an 80-foot cul-de-sac there, then that problem.
You would meet
goes away.
the ordinance.
But the community septic systems, I mean, I contend that they're all owned by the same entity. So it is a community septic system. It gets away from the dumping station.
I could not
We
find
have
any
8
language that identified what a community septic system is specifically. So unless an engineer or somebody weighed in, I would be happy to say that 18 different septics go towards a community septic system. I'm not saying that that's the best though, but I'm saying that I would be happy to call that a community system. But without any kind of legal guidance and an engineer weighing in on, you know, I'm just talking competent information, I guess.
and we don't, to my knowledge, have a definition, do we, in our ordinance of community?
I couldn't find it anywhere.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So I would tend to agree with Councilman Mans's take on that particular issue.
So if they're owned by an individual though, do they need to be monitored every year like a,
They're not, they're owned by the
It's going
property.
to be septic, it's going to be Dare County Health permit.
does somebody still come out once a year and check them?
Not
Because
on
they're,
the-
because
Well,
they're
on the
private?
pressure systems there will be,
Right,
but on for the bathhouse there will be.
right,
But the individual ones are gravity systems, just like the other house, and there's not really any to check them.
understood.
I mean, they should be checked every 5 years and pumped to get the grease out of them and solids out of them. Just typically what we do here.
I have one other question. Where does I couldn't quite find it, where does the 2-foot sea level line meet this property? For the 50-year, with the you know, flood mitigation, risk mitigation, the 50-foot line, the NOAA 50-year, 2-foot sea level rise line, where does that meet?
I don't know.
Does that make sense, Rob, what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, but it's typically not something that we show on these plans, nor is it required by the town to show that on the plan. I mean, right now, there's a grading plan that I don't have in front of me.
Okay.
And that would show what the elevations of the
So we don't know
swamp
where it is?
are. No.
Okay.
But I mean, but we are raising the road elevation and the pad elevations up to about a 5-foot elevation.
5 foot.
5 foot above sea level, yeah. Yes.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you. That was a little confusing question.
Anything else from council? As of this witness? Mr. Horn, I'll turn it over to you if you have any questions.
One of the questions for John DeLucia, we can have our next witness come up.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you did. Perfect.
Where we at?
Not familiar with members of the council. This is Greg Ward. He's our appraiser. He's going to talk about the third and fourth findings that are required by the ordinance for the SUP.
Okay, I have copies from the board.
Thank you, sir.
Just for the record, Casey's not going to read this report.
Thank you.
He's going to summarize what the report says.
Good news.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Greg Bourne. I live at 4893 The Woods Road in Kitty Hawk. I'm a professional appraiser. I've appraised on the Outer Banks for 40 years. I do all kinds of property appraisals, usually the more complex assignments. I'm a general real estate appraiser, which gives me the qualifications to appraise any kind of property. I'm also an MAI, which means I'm a member of the Appraisals Institute, which is kind of like a step above what's required to get state certified. So I've been down here a long time. But in this particular case, what we're trying to find is if this proposed use of the preserve at Kitty Hawk Woods will have an adverse or substantial injure the value of the adjacent properties. So what I've done is done a study to answer that question. And basically, I will go ahead and tell you my findings, and then I'll tell you how I arrived at them. I found that the project will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or be a public nuisance. Given the development plans within the area, the proposed project will be in harmony within the area that is located and does not materially endanger the public health and or safety. So before I go into the how I got to that conclusion, I'll give you a real quick overview of the property that is going to be, that's the subject of what we're here today. Okay, basically, real quick, it's a 6.21 acre tract, about 5.27 acres of that's upland. You got about an acre of wetlands, which is mostly the ash swamp pond. You're going to have 32 sites on there. And the site ranges between 2.5 and 4 feet above sea level. The soils on the site are both on the uplands is primarily fine sand and Osley fine sand, which are moderately well drained to excessively well drained soils. You have a little bit of a wetland right along the pond, but the vast majority of the site and where the development is on the uplands. There'll be 32 sites. Each site will be, most sites are 12 feet wide by 50 feet long, although you have a couple that's 12 feet by 40 feet. Bathhouse, utility hookups, 2 parking spaces, and we've gone in great detail about septic systems, so I won't worry about that. The map I've given you kind of shows, and it's basically an enlarged one from page 11, because when you put something in the report, you got to shrink it pretty far, pretty small, so it fits. So basically, what you have on the property, the surrounding properties, the adjacent properties to the east, you have the existing park, which also goes to the north. To the south and east further down, you have basically five parcels. 4 of them are single-family dwellings. 1 of them's a vacant lot. And then across the pond to the west, you have a house on a very large parcel. It's about 9.7 acres. So basically, those are the properties. Most of those houses, especially the ones at the end of Old Schoolhouse Lane, are older properties on larger lots. Some of them are manufactured housing, you have some warehouses. In fact, the one across the Swamp Pond actually has about a 2,000 square foot warehouse on it. So you have a wide array of uses around the property and across, of course, you have the Storage King USA, you have the Garden Center, you have the Fred Smith Complex, and then further out from that, you have other single-family residences and some vacant land that's part of the preserve. So, basically, if you read the description I have on pages 10 and 11, that kind of goes along with what I have on the map. Real quick, the property is zoned VR3, high-density residential village district, and basically to the north, east, and south has the same zoning. Across the pond to the west, you have a low-density village residential district. We've already gone over what the zoning will allow, and so basically, what I have to do to find out what a difference it makes, if there makes any difference in the value by being adjacent to an RV park, I have to look at sales of properties that are adjacent to a park and compare them with things that are otherwise similar but not adjacent to the park. And to do that, I looked at basically the 3 parks in Kitty Hawk, the subject obviously, the Kitty Hawk RV Park, Charlie's Family RV Park. I also looked at the Kitty Hawk, and Joe's and Kay's Campground and OBX Campground in Collington, and I looked at 13 RV parks on Hatteras Island, where the vast majority of our RV parks are located. So what I have found is that I researched numerous sales, but in these things it's kind of difficult because you got to find a sale next to an RV park, which, as we all know, the Outer Banks is pretty developed. So you have to find sales that occurred within the relative same period of time. I went back as far as 2000 and are similar, in this case, like lots and size, the location and how they would be, how they compare to each other. And what I found is basically I found 3 that I've included in my report. And basically, let's see, I have 2 on Hatteras Island, and one next to Ocean Waves Campground, and the other one on Hatteras was the Sands of Town Campground RV Park in Avon Village. Also, I found one next to Charlie's Family RV Park here in Kitty Hawk. Basically, from looking at those 3 sales, I found no material difference or substantial difference in value between a property that's located adjacent to an RV park versus a similar property not located adjacent to an RV park. And that's why I derive my opinion that the Preserve at Kitty Hawk's Woods project will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or be a public nuisance, and the proposed project will be in harmony with the area in which it is located and does not materially endanger the public health or safety.
Okay, I'll start.
Question?
When you say in harmony,
Yes.
explain the definition of what you're talking about in harmony. What's in harmony?
The proposed project is obviously in harmony, similar to what surrounds it. Obviously, it's adjacent to the existing.
But not harmony with nature. You're talking about in harmony with
Surrounding uses.
the surrounding.
Uses, like, the existing portion of the facility.
Okay, but just buildings specifically, your definition of harmony doesn't mean it's fitting in with the actual area that it's in. You're just saying it's got similar than buildings around it? Or,
Right, it's-
yes.
When you look in harmony, what you're looking at is, what is the, if you go back and just look like, from a drone or something down the side of the picture, you just look around what's around it. You have an existing park. You have single-family dwellings. You have mobile home, manufactured homes on lots. You have warehouses. You have, to the north of the property, you actually have an abandoned, yes, it was a manufactured home at one time. You got a camper, you got some vehicles, they're all overgrown. This proposal and the expansion, in my opinion, is in harmony with those uses that surround it.
The uses.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you're not saying in an environmental standard at all. You have, your expertise is just, right now, you're just saying that it won't endanger the value of the property next door.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So the harmony, I'm not really sure, and it's highlighted, it kind of, in harmony, they're all different. I mean, there's not a mobile park next to it. And like I said, I don't see what harm.
It would be,
I agree it's not going to hurt the value of the property. I agree 100%, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of confused about the harmony issue of whether you're saying this whole project fits on this piece of property, or are you here to tell me that it's not going to hurt the value of the
I'm here to tell you it's not going to be hurt the value.
Okay.
And basically, in that regard, it's in harmony. It would not be a use that would not be anticipated, that would be a detriment into the surrounding properties. In that sense, it's in harmony.
Okay.
Don't you think it's kind of difficult to compare something that's oceanfront to where this is located?
Well, what you want to do is you want to look and, in a perfect world,
Right.
I'd have a sale right next to the park.
Right.
And 1,000 feet away, I'd have another sale. They'd be identical.
Yeah.
And then that way I can look at them and say, oh, the only difference is one's next to the park and one's not. Unfortunately, this is the Outer Banks. And the vast majority of our property is already developed. So if I'm looking for one aspect, right, and that is being next to an RV park is a detriment, or is an adverse to the adjoining property or adjacent property, I can compare, as long as I'm holding the factors the same, one's adjacent to RV park, another is not, but they're similar in every other way. Then I can say, okay, I've isolated that one factor that says being adjacent does not harm that.
No, so I'm gonna jump in there. On page 4, where you do your general assumptions and limiting conditions,
Yes, sir.
23-year licensed real estate broker, yada, yada, yada. I get your extraordinary assumptions and assumptions that you have to make, right?
Right.
However, I'm gonna back off number 1, but on number 8, you say it is assumed that all applicable zoning and use regulation restrictions have been complied with unless a nonconformity has been stated. defined and considered in the appraisal report. Wouldn't that kind of tie back into Councilman Pruitt's concerns on the road and everything else?
Basically,
Are you assuming that all that's okay?
I'm assuming the project will be developed just like it is
Yeah,
presented
gotcha.
here.
Okay. And also under number 9, it is assumed that all the required licenses, certificates of occupancy, consents, or other legislative or administrative authority from any local, state, or national government or private entity or organization have been or can be obtained or renewed for any use on which the value estimate contained in this report is based. Well, we don't have all those. So again, you're making another extraordinary assumption.
It's assumption.
Right.
And this is, these are standard living conditions.
Correct.
This is not an appraisal, like I'm appraising one piece of property, and I'm valuing it.
Yeah, but you're still
I'm using appraisal methods
I
to
understand.
answer a question. And so you basically, my assumption is developed just like it is shown up there.
Right.
And
You're here with flow and harmony, and it's not going to,
Exactly.
I understand.
exactly.
So, based on that comment, I'm gonna back off number 11, where there was no survey was made for you for the appraisal. Because if you're putting a value to something, not that you have to have a survey to give value, but you can't just rely on tax records either.
Right, I mean, obviously we have something that's here that's.
Correct,
much
but
greater.
you're stating right here under number 11, page 4, that no survey was made, especially for this appraisal.
Right.
That's your statement.
That is basically, whenever I appraise a property, the vast majority of times it does not have a survey made specifically, okay, here, Greg, here's a brand-new survey, now go appraise the property. Typically, I'm lucky to get a survey. It may be 5 years old, it may be 10 years old.
Understood.
And sometimes I don't even get that. Sometimes I do have to rely on county.
And I get it,
plans.
because they're not even required by a bank half the time. I get it,
Right.
depending on what type of loan you're doing.
Yes, sir.
I'm just wanting to point out for the record, though, that, we're making these assumptions, but there's 8 and 9, when we go back to Councilman Pruitt's concerns, and I'm backing off 11, but I did want to just state that you didn't have an actual survey to go by.
Not one made specifically for me, but I did have that site plan.
Okay. So that's kind of contradictory to what you say at number 11.
Yeah, remember,
Right.
it's basically standard living
Land,
conditions
right.
that I include with every appraisal.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
I think I just have one. It's a little bit of a question, but kind of a point too. Along with Councilman Pruitt's questioning of harmony, it looks like you indicate in there that the comprehensive plan, it's in general conformity with the comprehensive plan and does not materially endanger the public health or safety. I think it's,
Yes, sir.
is that, I mean, are you doing that off an appraisal? I'm trying to figure out, I mean, I can hear the engineer say that, but,
Extraordinary assumptions.
yeah, I mean, that's,
That's part of, the plan, I'm going with the plan they have here. I'm looking at value. So,
okay.
basically, given this plan, what I've done research value-wise, I see no detriment to adjoining properties.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last statement?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Do the specific thing now about appraisal.
Based on his questions, I didn't hear the whole thing, I'm sorry.
Okay. Basically, from my analysis, I found that the project will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or be a public nuisance.
Okay. I thought I heard you put the word value to something and,
If I did, I was misspoken.
okay, fair enough.
So I just bring that out there, since this is an official record.
Yes,
The
sir.
claim that of health and safety, I think, kind of exceeds the scope here a little bit, which goes back to, I guess, assumption number 18 on page 5. The subject has never been utilized as a waste disposal site for toxic or other hazardous
Right.
material.
I'm not an expert environmental guy, I didn't do borings.
Exactly.
It's not my, so I'd say, that's not
Gotcha,
just it.
okay. Thank you.
I think it'd be-
So,
And as a general comment, that goes to the, remember I said earlier, substantial, material, and competent. And you guys decide what is competent.
Right.
Is he competent to testify as to the issues you're currently speaking about? And that's in y'all's purview. So,
and in your own words right then, did you not say that you are not qualified to say harmony environmentally or anything like that?
I can say in regard to in harmony as far as value goes.
Just with value?
Just with value.
Not in harmony with the area? You're just the value.
If something was not in harmony with the area, it could impact value, but from my research,
Right,
you know, and using the words, the language,
right.
it is in harmony. in
With
that regard.
value.
With value, it will not have an adverse or detrimental value impact on the surrounding or adjacent property.
Just so that you know why I'm asking it is because in the findings, we have to find that it will be in harmony with the area, and you use the word harmony. So I want to make sure that you're not the spokesman for this group that is saying it's in harmony. Is that correct? With the nature, you're not an environmentalist, is that correct?
No. I'm
Okay.
not
So as far as environmental impact and all that,
No, sir.
you're not saying that this is in harmony with nature in any way?
No,
You're
sir.
just saying that this is in harmony with similar structures of value?
Yes.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Is everybody satisfied with this testimony? Okay.
yes. I was going to ask if the applicant had any questions.
Greg, this gets to the harmony issue. With respect to the harmony issue, I know Mr. Pruitt's been asking you about harmony. When you talked about harmony, did you consider like the other uses in the area, the trees, the environment?
Yes. I mean, I considered how it sits, where it sits, and what impact the project has. Obviously, it's one thing if the project went there and clear cut the whole site.
Which is not going to do.
What it's not going to do. Actually, if you look at the plan, they've preserved most of the live oaks and things like that. So in that regard, it is in harmony with its area. And that harmony is a value indicator.
Is it harmonious with the existing RV park right next door?
Yes, it is. Actually, it's a lower density, but yes.
But it's harmonious.
Yes, it is.
And when you look at it, you talked about before, like the drone's view looking down.
Right.
When you look at it in terms of what's surrounding it, vegetation, types of buildings, other uses.
Right.
Not just uses, but in the context of the area around it.
Right.
Is it still your opinion that it's harmonious with the area?
Yes, and in fact, if you look at some of the dwellings, if you go down Old Schoolhouse Lane, most of those lots have been practically entirely cleared, where there is no remaining vegetation to speak of. So in that sense, you know, the project is better than some of the surrounding properties in that regard.
And is it as harmonious as some of the other uses that could go in the VR3 district?
Yes.
Application?
Yes, it is.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think last but not least necessarily with our presentation, we've got Chris Cashin, who's one of the principals of the entity that owns the property. So he's going to talk to you about the project and some of the other issues we can talk about.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Chris Cashin. I'm one of the owners of the Preserve Park in Kitty Hawk. I've owned it for about 10 years. I actually owned it after the last, I was not part of the request for the Lumber Home Park earlier. I guess that preceded my ownership. But I wanted to just tell you a little bit about what we've tried to do with the property and what we would like to do with this adjacent property. And when I bought it, There were some issues locally with the preserve park. The previous owner had done some work to improve it, and we've continued to do that. We really focused on using strong lease agreements, some standardized processes, some legal background checks, et cetera, to improve the tenancy in the park and to make sure that we're complying with everything that the town of Kitty Hawk needs. And I have checked in periodically over the years with the police department, with the fire department, to say that we're running a good park. We haven't created any issues locally with the police. We've been in compliance with everything that we've been asked to do, and we maintain a very standardized schedule of maintenance and and trying to maintain a standard of RV that's in the park and trying to make sure that we're doing the best thing that we can for the area. So why are we thinking about expanding it? We've always owned the property next door, and it's a separate parcel. And the goal was, we'd like to see if we could continue to expand upon the things that we've learned over the 10 years of running the park that we currently have. And so, I get it, not everybody loves RV parks, but we really think I think it's an awesome use for here in the Outer Banks, if we do it right. And I wanted to make sure when we did this proposal that we did it right. And so, I hope if I've demonstrated anything to you, we spent the time to hire local experts to look at what is the environmental impact, how can we minimize that, how can we put the correct septic in place, how can we make sure there's minimized environmental impact, create a park that looks great, that has some maintenance of trees, has nice spacing between the spots, to create a really welcoming environment that we think we have now, but I think this steps it up even better on the second half of the park. I think that we've really been intentional with how can we design something that would look good and work with some of the limitations you have in terms of how low-lying the area is and what can we do and what else could we put there. As far as some other things I've heard that come up, I mean, obviously RV parks were a text amendment that was made, I believe, a few years ago. We were in VR3, but RV parks actually weren't allowed in VR3, but that was changed a few years ago. You know, the reserve right now is a grandfathered use. So we look to be compliant with all the standards that the RV park ordinance requires. That's what we were very intentional with, making sure John went through and did all the septic requirements and the turnaround requirements, and then we just tried to do a little bit above and beyond in terms of making it look like it would be a very attractive spot for people to come. And with that, I'd love to welcome your questions about what our intent is. I know there's some questions about tenancy and who's going to come. I'm more than happy to tell you how we plan on managing that, what we'll do.
Do you have a manager?
We do.
You do?
His name is Nick Martini. He's managed the park for both the previous owner and myself.
Does he stay in a camper?
He is. He's the local resident.
Do you have a storm plan for your,
We do.
You
When
do?
there is a storm coming, we do put out, we can't make people leave. We
Wait a minute now.
we request that they leave.
So if that camper, if the RV's there and a hurricane's coming and they're in Mississippi, and you call and say, hey, you need to move your camper out of here, your RV out, and they say, man, I can't make
personally
it.
haven't had that experience.
But how about if, I know, well, I look at the
All I
worst.
can speak to is what my experience.
I look at the worst. Everybody knows me. I look at disaster,
And I
so.
know that of the tenants that aren't there, the ones that I know of
Mm-hmm.
are ones that live within an hour of the spot, and they do come and move.
But you don't have a limit on where they, okay, say 10 of them aren't from here. What would you do if we had a hurricane coming? What would your plan do to get these vehicles out of this low-lying area before they end up in ash swamp? Is there nothing you can do? They're private and you can't ask them to leave or have a tow truck?
We do ask them to leave.
Well, how about if they don't?
I suppose if that's something that would be a requirement, is that a requirement within the ordinance that we remove?
And if they don't, they can be towed?
That's certainly something that could be part. A lot of the questions I think you guys ask could be managed through a lease agreement, and that lease agreement could include that provision, that if you're required to remove, or the park will have it removed for you in the case of storm evacuation.
Well, I have concerns, and this room's full of people with concerns about what's going to happen if it floods. I think most of the people here are worried more about where is the wastewater going, where are these vehicles, who's going to make sure that they're not left there. The reason that when we did the RV park, one of the reasons that they didn't really want to do it is because we were going to have to be above the flood level, where this isn't. So that way, if they didn't come, their RVs, I mean, their campers were going to be where they weren't flooded. Where this, I don't see how, especially if you only allowed these people short-term, like if I go to a campground and I pay by the night.
Right.
Just like I do when I go camping. I love camping, and I have nothing against RV parks. But most of the ones I've been to, you go there, they don't have, a lot of them don't have septic. You hold it, and then as you're leaving, you go to the dump spot and go. That way you don't stay, because you'd have to keep going back and forth. This seems like you're going to hook up, you're going to stay, and you know, a monthly rental can turn into yearly and yearly and yearly. And what you just said is you really have no way of making them leave if they don't want to go.
Well, and that jumps back into what I was saying earlier. So if it's 180 days, right, you can pull out for one day and go back in and your 180 days starts, right? So, and then you say you can't make somebody leave. I may be off here, but if you're not a full-time resident and you're told mandatory evacuation, you can make them leave. So I have concerns about that. My concern is you pull out for one day and you're right back for another 180 days. But to your point on the flooding and the hurricanes, if you're in Mississippi, I mean, it's not a tornado. It doesn't just show up overnight. You've got time to get here and get your stuff out of here, right? So,
I mean, I can only speak to the experience I've had managing the park for 10 years.
Right.
Is that we do send out evacuation messages.
It
is not current policy to make them leave. We haven't done that. If you're saying that's a condition of now managing RV parks, I don't believe that's,
I don't know if it's a condition, it's a concern.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the legal ability to do that as the lease is written, but I can.
I think you can put whatever you want in your own lease.
Right, and that certainly could be something that would be.
And again, for me, it's more of a safety concern, not a condition so much. Yeah, I'm not against RV parks. I sit on the county planning board since 2015. We've approved plenty of them.
Right.
I'm not opposed to it. This is different than anyone I've ever seen before.
Can I ask you in what way?
Everything we've discussed tonight. I'm more concerned about the safety side of it.
Environmental.
And environmental.
And what?
Because that water does lead to open water. Might have to go through a culvert underneath a street, but it does get there.
And that goes to Kitty Hawk Bay?
Right.
No question.
And what body would satisfy you?
I'm sorry?
And whose opinion would satify you?
Well, it's not just my opinion, it's this whole board, everybody.
I'm just.
Yeah, I mean.
If the stormwater and whatnot are approved by Dare County, I'm just asking what body would be able to provide the
Catastrophic event. When we have the septic floating down to, look at Hatteras right now. That's all approved. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make it difficult on you. I'm just trying to throw, I'm like Councilman Pruitt, I'm throwing things out there that we have to think about as a council for the safety and well-being of all the residents around you. So, that's all I have for now.
Anybody else? Dylan, have you got any?
Just elaborate on that park manager position one more time. So that's great. You have a person that lives in the park right now that manages, and that works out wonderful. If that person left and no other person living in the park wanted to be that manager, what would you do?
He does not live in the park. He's
Oh, okay.
simply just employed. Yeah.
Okay, I misunderstood you. I thought you said he lived in the park.
He's not,
Okay.
he comes to the park and
So in the event that you lost that employee, you would find another local person?
yes, it is.
Okay. You don't have any, my point is you don't have any plans to have an office or somewhere where he would have headquarters at the park?
Not this one.
Okay.
Who's going to park them? How are these people going to get in and out of these? Are you talking about motorhomes, or what is your vision? Do you see people coming in for just short periods of time and leaving? Just on a vacation?
We're going to do, based on my experience of what how people currently consume the park that we currently own, is that they would like to come for periods of time that are, this would probably not be a weekend rental. It would probably be, try to do monthlies. They only do half, obviously, prorate the month, but I think that's how we would approach it.
This has little to do with your subdivision, but I have concerns about Woods Road traffic. I've been caught in that Woods Road traffic on weekends, and you cannot get out of it until you get to the end. I don't know how you were going to evacuate or I don't know how you're going to manage that without somebody on site. When you've got somebody checking in and checking out, and everybody doesn't drive them well. So, and are they back in or drive in sites?
They're back in sites, and that's why we created the wider berth, so that they could do that.
And these will be for the owners only, an immediate family. They won't be able to leave them, and a cousin come stay. Do y'all have any of those kind of regulations?
We do that in our current lease agreements. We do have, you can't sublet it.
Not sublet, but I understand that, but I know that the parks here, I can't even let my nephew come if it's not me and my children.
No, I do believe the lease agreement is super important, but that's, yes, it's not meant for.
Because if I leave it for a period of time, I can go back home and I can tell my cousin, why don't you go stay for a couple of weeks, and then, or my nephews, but I know locally here that I was thinking about putting an RV in a park, because I like parks. And so I checked around, and I thought it'd be great if I had some family, they could go over there and stay, and I found out that's not the way it works here.
Right.
It's for me and me only. I just was wondering if this was very similar, where, nobody else can stay in there but the immediate family.
Well, it's not a gated community either, to prevent folks from coming and going as they want. With that lease that you have now currently, how long are people allowed, what's the maximum length amount of time somebody can currently sign with you?
At this point, they can roll month to month for as long as they have,
So you just do a
There
month to month
isn't a maximum.
Okay.
So that would be a change.
And this is currently the current park is also in the same flood zone as?
100%.
Okay.
And
So
in
everything
10
in
years-
there is able to be pulled away, and
I've
got a 180-day requirement? And
in the 10 years I've owned it, we've not had a flood problem. I mean, we've had some.
Well, I'm just
water
saying, like, right
problems.
now, do you track, since it isn't a flood zone and there's a 180-day requirement or a 1-year requirement to have it,
We have
camper
we have
registered?
a running registration of who's in the lots. Yes, we do.
Okay, so you keep up with that and you maintain the 180 days and currently? Okay.
We have information on the vehicle, we have security deposits, we have whatnot that collect for those.
Going back to Mayor Walker's concern about traffic on the Woods Road, have you been in coordination with any sort of traffic engineer regarding additional ingress and egress next to, the entrance is so close to an existing intersection. I know on new curb cuts, for new projects, you would want a certain separation between an intersection. That's sort of, I could see creating a danger. I'm not a traffic engineer.
I'm not a traffic engineer, but 32 units, 32 RV units are going to have one vehicle, maybe two vehicles on them. And I say one vehicle because usually the RV tows tows the electric vehicle they use to get around here. Ms. Walker, yes, I know that Saturday afternoon or Saturday mornings, people trying to sneak up that Woods
Yeah,
Road,
they go
back all the
take
way
a
out.
shortcut.
I don't know what we can do with that.
I don't know either.
If we could find a solution to that, it would be wonderful.
It would
I
be.
mean, the solution to that is to get up at 7 o'clock to go up to Walmart and not get caught in at 11.
But that's just an inconvenience. And I think what Councilman Tillett's saying is you've got you got a T intersection right there and you've got an angle road. Right now, you've got folks that are staying there long-term. I mean, they're not coming and going, but you come around that, you know, just driving out of there, and I run through there all the time. When you come out of that lot, you're looking right back down. You're coming at an angle and you look back right down the swamp. If you got a rig behind you, you're pulling out in front of a 35 zone or, you know, somebody going, sometimes, well, I guess some people go 50 down there, but not you, I'm not saying. But that could be a tight spot, right, when you're coming out with a rig, and so you gotta be real careful. It could be a concern. Now you're gonna have a lot more activity, 30 more spots and 32 more spots and so forth and so on. So I get what Councilman Tillett's getting at there, so.
I mean, typically, you know, a typical operation on where the RV park is not going to be traffic problem because they're not all coming and going at the same time. It's not like church.
Until that hurricane hits. Until that hurricane hits, and now you've got 30-some plus the original.
30 vehicles.
Trying to egress all at one time.
Thousands of vehicles do we have trying to get off?
One way in, one way out, and it's
That's right.
and it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
You know, no parking lot around a commercial would allow you to go one way in, one way out to Walmart or anything like that. You got to have ingress, egress for safety. So.
Yeah, but the traffic counts at something like and we did traffic studies when we did the BB&T where the new
Right.
Rural Farms is going to go. We had that all looked at, and on a shopping center like that, your traffic count is higher.
Yeah.
Much higher.
On mixed streams, that's a whole different animal.
That's a whole
right?
different animal.
That's a commercial spot and all that, but
I mean,
you do have a lot of people packed.
If we develop this parcel in compliance with the permitted uses and put 24, 25, 3-bedroom apartments on here, the traffic would be much, much higher than 32.
Possibly, but not big rigs behind them, that sort of thing. So again, concern being an emergency, storm hitting, whatever, you're trying to egress everybody at one time, and it could be problematic because everybody's trying to back out, and as Mayor Walker said, having somebody direct and that sort of thing, it goes back to the owner making sure there's a traffic cop out there directing traffic, because that could become a real big mess, and people can get trapped back there. Not to mention a fire hazard, not that we're too worried about that, but.
I mean, I think that's probably more important than the flood.
Thank you.
No, I agree. I think a manager, that's why a manager, I do believe is important.
Since we're talking about the intersection, we're there. We're going to go back to the Baum property. Exactly how wide is the easement? Is somebody?
I would have to look back.
Okay.
I know we do have a very tight easement agreement that dates back to when we purchased the original park.
And it just seems like to me we'd like to know. I would like to know if she was to pinch and just hold you to your exact easement there, exactly what your easement is. Is anybody?
Well, no,
I'd love to contact Mrs. Baum and talk to her about it, but I've not been successful.
did the appraiser not pull an easement? Did you?
I did not believe
It goes back to them assumptions, right? Assuming they're all there.
Anybody else have questions?
One last question. Do you have a recreational facility right now at your current property? Do you have a place that people are already using?
We just have extra space. There's extra space where some of the dumpsters are, and it's just.
Is that at the end of that one road you come in back on the water, that kind of green area?
Madam Mayor, may I ask Mr. Cashin one question?
Certainly.
Over the course of your 10 years of association, over the course of your 10 years of association with the preserve as it is now, how many accidents or incidents have you experienced at the intersection of the driveway with the Woods Road?
I know of none, but I can't guarantee that none have happened. So I'm not familiar with any.
And your current long-term residents are there?
Right.
No further questions.
I'm good if y'all all good? Good?
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I want to make sure that everybody has had an opportunity to ask questions and to come forward.
Yes,
I just have a question.
You're a quick study.
We'll have an opportunity to kind of sum up after the public or whoever else has spoken.
Okay.
I just wanted to,
Absolutely.
I don't know what the
Yes.
order of events is here, so after everyone's done, I'll have a few comments.
This is their hearing, so I want to hear from them, too.
Madam Mayor, we do have someone from the public sign up to speak if all of those applicants.
Okay? You'll state your name and address and speak directly into the microphone.
Well, I will state my name and my address and,
she was, yeah.
Yeah, she was sworn in. She was.
but apparently, I'm Audrey Wendell. I live at 1022 West Kitty Hawk Road. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time. I come to a lot of public meetings here at the council and spoke, but I am by no means an expert, which I just probably shot myself in the foot not signing up for public comment, but I guess that didn't matter either because that was such an eloquent letter that was read into the meeting. The only expertise I have is that I live in the village. And I live not adjacent, but pretty daggone close to where this is going. And you guys have done great tonight with all these valid concerns that people that live in the village have on this expansive project. And traffic is a huge concern. Charlotte, thank you for bringing that to the attention of being locked in on a Saturday. Thank goodness.
It only takes once.
Yes.
You don't forget it.
So yes, that is a huge concern, and although in the 10 years that you have owned that, I don't believe there are a lot of large recreational vehicles coming in and out of that driveway that dump right into an intersection onto the continuation of the walking path. So that is a huge concern. Also, something else that we have thought about with people staying here long-term, and I know there's 2 parking spots per lot, but I know being a frequenter of RV parks and camping, that's going to really increase the e-bike traffic as well, because I know a lot of people, if they're parked, they're going to e-bike, and that's already a concern. And there's been a lot of issues and accidents with that. And so in a shared community, and maybe, you know, people not exactly sure where they're going, that can be another huge concern. But once again, not being an expert, but knowing what the land use plan is for the town of Kitty Hawk, in my humble opinion and not expertise, I believe that it doesn't fit in. It's not conducive to the village, and maybe some people might say that it's a case of not in my backyard, but that person probably has the luxury of not worrying about this going in their backyard. So, with that being said, I also know that in the past, there have been applications for special use permits, and it has been said from the council that the town of Kitty Hawk has taken a lot of time and money to create a wonderful land use plan. So it's hard to see things get changed when there is a clear vision for the town of Kitty Hawk and how the residents want the land used. Maybe, you know, if an RV park is there, maybe it's not so dense, maybe it looks different. But the way it is going to impact the community of the village, and before 10 years ago, there was a huge storm. It was 14 years ago. My daughter was just born, and we left. And it was a scary, horrible storm, which we've been very lucky that we haven't had another one like that. But chances are we probably will. So all those flooding issues that the council are bringing up are very valid concerns. And also, I would just like to say, as a resident of the village, that nobody has chosen to make their life here because they wanted this in their backyard. They won't rest it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I didn't come up front because I wasn't planning on saying anything, but it's an issue that I've heard briefly touched on. I'd like to hear a little bit more about.
Casey, can,
What was
he'd have to be sworn in.
The issue, he'd like more
Oh,
information.
he wants to be heard about.
Yes.
I just want to ask a question.
Okay, yeah, okay, I understand.
Needs to be sworn
Please
in.
be, yep, I was gonna
Yes,
say,
he
please
has to
swear
be
him in.
sworn in.
You swear that the evidence you shall be used actually shall be the truth and the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so
More clarification. My name's Curtis Pentecost. I live at 1047 Twyford Street. I heard Councilman Hines briefly mention a fire, and I haven't heard anybody mention anything about fire control, fire hydrants, or outdoor fires like grills and things like that. I woke up one night and the house behind Ronnie Tillett's house was on fire. That was a scary situation. I was really concerned that the whole forest was going to go up. And I never had a problem with the trailer court, never even noticed that they were over there. But with that many packed in, I have been at Frisco Campground on holidays, and there's fires, there's drinking, there's yelling and screaming. Like I said, I have never heard anything, didn't even know the trailer park was over there really. But I am concerned about fire and whether there are fire hydrants and how they intend to deal with that issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me answer that question real quick. There's an existing water system out onto the site. There's an existing fire hydrant right in the middle of the whole site that is compliant and, Chief,
Yeah.
you look at it. Right?
The fire marshal looked at it.
Okay, the fire marshal looked at it, so.
It's on the plans.
We had asked for them to look at it.
Mr. DeLucia, is that fire hydrant, is there a certain distance it needs to be from every site? Is there a requirement that you met when designing this?
Mr. Tillich, it is, you see where that easement, the water line easement comes across there? It's right where it turns.
I know where it's at, I'm just curious if there was a minimum distance from each site that is being held. Is there a 400-foot or 500-foot distance from?
We submitted it to the town, and the town said that what we have out there was okay.
Okay,
If we needed to put another fire hydrant, we'd certainly be willing to do it.
gotcha.
I'm sorry, where's the fire hydrant at again on there? Oh, I see it.
Yeah, it's right in there.
That's the existing one?
That's
The-
existing.
The existing one's on the property line, am I not?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Isn't that right there? Yeah, right
That's
there.
correct, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sure seems like there should be another one. To me, it seems like there should be another one somewhere, but I mean, if the fire department's okay with it, then I'm not, who am I? You know? They would know better what they need to fight a fire than I do.
Chief, are you able to speak on distances from hydrants that you'd like to have from a firefighting standpoint?
You need to swear him in too.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you swear that the evidence you shall give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God?
Good evening. So what was the question, John?
Is there a certain distance from a hydrant that you're looking for with our apparatus to make sure that if a fire was to happen at one of these sites, it would be within a correct distance to be able to attack the fire?
So we generally look for 400 feet.
Mm-hmm.
We have the capabilities of going 1,000 feet with our trucks. That's a standard that's with all fire pumpers, most of the fire service in our region as well. We can go beyond that, but we typically do not want to go beyond 1,000 feet. In terms of what we look in the plans, we're looking around the 400 to 600 foot range.
So you feel that's adequate for you guys, the way it is now?
This was approved by the fire marshal, so yeah, he knows what I look for, so as long as we're in that 400 to 600 foot range, that's typically what we'll look.
So if one of these at any single site was to go up in flames, you feel confident we'd have the correct equipment to address that in our apparatus?
It's not really about the equipment, it's about the staffing and the manpower. So
Okay.
that, it's gonna be questionable any time of the day of the week.
Sure,
month,
wind,
like that.
yep,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So there's a lot of variables there.
So as an example, you got a fire hypothetically on Lindbergh, and you guys are trying to fight that, and one breaks out over here. Is that what you're referencing as far as manpower? To be able to
Just so it
deal with
shows
both?
up.
Well, there's something called an effective response force on any fire. In general, we look at a single-family residence, and we have minimums, okay? Right now in the region, we're below our minimums to begin with. So it's just on any fire, just take this to the side. We're behind in that regard. We have a lot of equipment, just not a lot of staffing. A lot of our staffing is based on mutual aid. I would say all of it is based on mutual aid. And we have, in Kitty Hawk, we have no control over what others are sending us and when they're sending them to us. So there's a lot of variables in that regard. As far as Kitty Hawk, if we have the staffing, we have the equipment to deal with this. It's just that we staff four people per shift. So if you're asking if Kitty Hawk can handle that, I'm gonna say no, we cannot.
Would an extra hydrant make it easier?
It's still going back to the staffing question. We gotta have people staffing those fire trucks, and responding. Now, on a good day, we do get that staffing in a relatively quick time. We can handle that. But if you're asking me at every day, every moment of the day, can we handle that? There's a lot of variables there. I can't really answer that perfectly.
That's fair.
Chief, do you know if that's a dead-end line to that hydrant, or if it's a spaghetti line or a loop line? Or do you know?
It's most likely a dead end.
A spaghetti dead end? Okay, so
But
more.
I don't know specifically.
Okay, so adding more hydrants on a dead end like we've seen on Ivy.
It's not on a grid system, so it's-
If it's not on the loop system, one hydrant sucks the flow. If we had 10 hydrants, it wouldn't make the difference of water flow to this site.
It's still
Because of
coming in off of that main.
if this is a dead end main or a spaghetti line, it doesn't get on a loop on the Woods Road, most likely not, correct?
Most likely it does not.
Okay. John? Okay, thank you. So the question of more fire extinguishers, we've seen this happen in Kitty Hawk Landing where you could have had all the fire trucks you wanted, but we didn't have water. And a couple of the trucks sucked it, so the rest of them couldn't even run. So to answer that, I don't think hydrants would help in this situation.
So Chief, I brought this up a couple times, but just while you're here, I know the fire marshal looked at this, but any concerns with single ingress, egress point when you've got a multiple casualty, ambulances, fire trucks, any concerns or any kind of rapid evacuation with this layout, the way it's, single road in and out?
We would be concerned about those things if it was high occupancy. Okay, and these are probably not going to be, there's probably not going to be, that's not going to be the case in this. I guess it could be, but in generally speaking, it's not going to be high occupancy, and that's when we usually want that, yeah, that blue, so that we can get ambulances in and out of there, any emergency vehicles in and out of there. So no, we're not all that concerned. We're able to get our trucks in and out of there effectively with the hammerhead and get in and out. We did look at that when these plans came out to make sure that it was meeting that standard, and it does.
Out of curiosity, what is the procedure for turning around at a Hammerhead intersection? Do crew members jump out of the truck and guide the truck backwards?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They would
So
pull
that
one leg, they'd get out, back up down the other leg.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, it was supposed to be 60 feet on each of the legs.
I think that's what it said.
And it met that. So.
Did you or the applicant receive any sort of written report from the fire marshal when he did the review on that hydrant?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Rob, you don't know of any, you haven't received any on that note? Okay.
Rob, is there a flow rate for dwellings by, one hydrant at a certain flow rate can only service a certain amount of dwellings? Is there anything in the code like that?
Nothing.
No. Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that needs to speak? Would like to speak? Okay. Well, then I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Hornet wanted to just
okay.
make a few closing remarks.
Oh, okay, that's perfectly fine.
Thank you, and I promise to be brief. I'm sure you've heard attorneys say that before, and of course, whatever. But in any event, we've had quite a discussion this evening. I know that there are some concerns that some of the council members had regarding the turnaround in particular. We can accept the condition that there be a cul-de-sac instead of a turnaround. I mean, that's just a design issue that John has already indicated can be addressed. There is an issue about what is a turnaround. This is a turnaround, it's just not a cul-de-sac. The ordinance doesn't require a cul-de-sac. So I just wanted to, nevertheless, we're willing to do a cul-de-sac if that's what the council's will is.
I'm sorry, you said the cul-de-sac is not required per the ordinance?
It says a turnaround.
With 80-foot diameter.
80-foot diameter.
Yeah, that's hard to do in a T.
But there's no definition of turnaround in the ordinance.
Well,
And
but
this is
the
required-
intent, 80 feet would be so you can turn around, not have to back up to a
I'm
safety
saying it's
issue.
an ambiguity.
Okay.
It gives you a chance to say.
Not a radius is not ambiguity. If you have a radius of 80 feet.
Let me try to
80
clarify
feet.
something. The ordinance says, any road designed to be permanently closed should have a turnaround at the closed end with a minimum right-of-way diameter of 80 feet. We don't have a right-of-way in here. This is a driveway. But we do have a turnaround that has more than 80 feet in it. I mean, if you want us to do a circular one there, we certainly can do that. I can accommodate that. But we're still going to leave that T up there. It's still going to be part of the plan because it still will provide a turnaround for the fire department to use. Fire department can't turn around in an 80-foot cul-de-sac. I mean, they've got to do a lot of backing. I've seen it at the end of my road. So, the turnaround that we have there has an 80-foot. It has probably 120 foot of turnaround space in it because we have 60 feet to the west and we have about 100 and some feet to the east. And we don't have a right-of-way in here that would have an 80-foot. So, I mean, I'm not sure if you want to see a circular, it won't be as good as this. And I still think it meets this ordinance. My opinion.
Mayor, Jerry, for a second.
Sure.
Chief Tyler, would you say that what he said is accurate on the 80-foot turnaround for you guys?
I would accept the challenge.
There's a
That's
flag.
fair.
And I have a rodeo.
Motorhomes with a vehicle on the back of it don't back up either.
That's on the spot now. Don't miss your spot.
Motorhomes with a vehicle attached to the back, a tow vehicle, don't back up either. Can't back up.
Well, you probably know that better.
I
than
do
me,
know that.
I'm sure. The only other points I want to make here is that I think that the issues that you raised can be solved with conditions. There's a requirement, many of them are requirements of the ordinance anyway, they're just I don't suggest, they are enforcement issues, as Casey had indicated before. The 180 days and being on travel worthy or road worthy, having the log of the leases and the owners and their addresses and all that, those are all requirements of the ordinance. We have to do that anyway, so we have no problem with doing that. If you want some kind of annual or biannual or semi-annual certification of compliance with the lease issues, Mr. Cashin has already indicated his willingness to do that. Remember that this site could be developed with 24 or 25 single-family residences. I mean, as a matter of right in the district. So what we're proposing here from a traffic standpoint is probably less of an issue than having 25 or 24 single-family detached units on the property, given the number of trips per day and the like. So please don't consider this just with respect to being vacant land and having a proposal on vacant land. You have to consider what else could be there and whether this is better, worse, or about the same as. I would ask you to keep that in mind. And then there's much discussion about harmony. I mean, harmony isn't just zoning stuff. Harmony has to do with what the character of the area and with the proposal in the context of the area in which it's proposed. And you heard Mr. Bourne and Mr. Cashin and Mr. DeLucia all talk about what's around this property. I mean, you have the existing mobile home RV park right next door. You have some commercial uses down up to the north, I suppose. And you got some residential uses, including one with a warehouse, some that are perhaps dilapidated mobile homes. Others are modest single-family residences. All in the area, there are trees. We're going to preserve as many trees as we can on the site. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why we're doing the 18 units is so that we don't have to do a big septic field where we're going to have to take down a bunch of trees. So we've tried to be as harmonious, as accommodating to the existing environment. This is a place where people will come. You'll be attracting families and visitors. So you're consistent with those issues of the land use ordinance. And I submit that we presented to you sufficient evidence for all 4 findings. Compliance with the code. If those things that you don't think we comply with, attach conditions. It's easy.
I will say one thing about harmony. I love the word flow and harmony. It's kind of like, as an attorney, it's kind of like reasonable, right? What I find to be in harmony, you may not be, and what you find to be reasonable, I may not find to be reasonable.
It may be in the eye of the beholder.
That's correct.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
But there's some objective standard that someone will look at.
No, I understand. But you might like green, I might like yellow. I mean, it's...
If I could, maybe to you know, along with that point, to clarify a little better, is we keep using the word harmony, but it's harmony in relation to the entire sentence, which is harmony in the area in which is located to be in general conformity with a comprehensive plan. So we've talked about ordinance, but we haven't talked about the comprehensive plan. When I talk about the comprehensive plan, the land use plan that was put together by the town as a guiding document. For instance, on page 39 of the land use plan, they state, use the future land use map and character area description as a guide when making land use and development permitting decisions. This is especially relevant to the rezonings and decisions of where to extend public infrastructure and services. Development within the horizontal boundaries of the 2-foot sea level rise area that I was talking about earlier have specific concern here. So when you talk about harmony and compliance, conformity with the land use plan, I don't see the congruence.
Well, I mean, I would disagree. I think that with respect to raising the pads, so we're above the 2-foot, and the streets, we're above the 2-foot flood line. The property is zoned RB or VR3. I mean, what we're proposing is consistent with the zoning, which this...
The special use.
Which this council, not necessarily you guys, but this council has said it is an appropriate use in that district, subject to a condition, a special use permit, which is what you're...
So we're talking about special use. So having said that, further in the, you know, the land use plan, as you know, called out, what is, you know, the two areas is in the accommodate and adapt and acknowledge and conserve. And that acknowledge and conserve is pretty specific, you know, when it talks about what you're allowed to do. And in that it says, discourage new development that relies on septic tanks in areas that will be inundated, again, with this 2-foot sea rise area. So that becomes problematic as well when you talk about septic systems and keeping with the land use and with the conformity of it. There's plenty of other things to include under goal 3, policy 3.1, which Mr. Tessman pointed out, manage land use and development to minimize primary and secondary impacts on resources and existing residents through standards for development. I mean, there's the whole gamut.
I don't see how we don't comply with that.
And then 4.1, encourage the preservation of maritime forests, floodplains, marshes, and wetlands through development regulations and land protection initiatives. In fact, I think when you look at the definition of acknowledge and preserve, it recommends that you look at ways to disassemble existing structures in those areas. So we're talking about proposing building something in an area that we're recommending in our land use plan. Now, I love this notion of a RV park, and it's great. I'm on the recreation committee, been for the last few years, and I love the idea of recreation and bringing it. But its congruence with this land use plan, which is signed off by the town of Kitty Hawk after, you know, as one of our witnesses indicated, a lot of money, time, and effort. It's just not congruent with that as far as, in my opinion, a floor plan, a framework of which to operate to make these decisions. So.
I understand what you're saying. Again, I disagree. I mean, there'd be no property development of vacant property if we had to comply with the disassemble argument.
Yeah, how many places live in flood zones that, you know, they have to worry about this sort of thing? You know, we allow this to happen, and the next thing you know, the entire, you know, Kitty Hawk's, you know, 10, 20, 30 years, not to mention, you know, 10 years down the road, all these 18 different septic systems that could be, you know, starting to cause problems, that sort of thing, which is a big problem on the entire, you know, beach community here, so.
But, I submit that speculating about what could possibly happen isn't evidence.
Yeah, so what we do is we put measures in place to make sure that nobody walks on those fields, right, those septic fields. Well, the septic fields are in between most campers, not every camper, but a lot of campers. How are you going to control people from, you know, walking on them and stuff? If you look at the EPA standards, they say they recommend vegetation on top of them to make sure that you don't walk and smash down. And we're already talking a thin layer to begin with, 30 inches deep before you hit that water level. you know, I don't care, you can build up several feet, but then again, land use plan calls out for making sure you don't use fill in these marshland areas, because then it can run off and create different stormwater issues. And I know we got infiltration basins and stuff, but.
Right. And the septic systems, I mean, as John DeLucia had said a few times, I mean, every yard in a single-family residence has a septic system, and if it's your backyard or your front yard, people are walking on that, playing wiffle ball on it,
Or
volleyball.
parking on them.
Parking on them.
Excellent. But that doesn't make it right.
Right.
And then our job is to make sure that we keep compliant with a framework and a way of thinking. And that's all I'm doing, just like Mayor Pro Temp there pointed out, you know, I've got an ordinance, I got to go by this. You know, and that's legit, and maybe there's ways that we can work around to fix those, but there's a bigger elephant in the room for me, and that's this land use plan. And if we don't use that, then the next property thereafter, and the next property thereafter, we got to be consistent as a council and as a town, so.
Understood.
Thank you.
But, I mean, that's really my closing statement. I would ask the board to find in favor of the council, excuse me, to find in favor of the SUP application. If there are conditions that you feel you need to apply in order to feel comfortable approving, let's talk about that and see. You know, we've already agreed to 2 or 3 different conditions. I would like to try to make that happen. And, I mean, I suppose if otherwise council members are generally satisfied, I mean, we talked about continuing, that's not our preference. We talked about continuing the hearing if necessary in order to address those couple of concerns. You know, we're willing to talk about that too. But again, our first preference would be approval or even a conditional approval tonight. And we think you can do that. Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion to come out of public hearing?
So moved, Ms. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. All right. We are now back in regular session. Council, do you have comments? Oh, I know. Excuse me, again, my goodness. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. We're back in regular session now. Thank you very much. I do I have a motion to do you have questions?
And just to keep it orderly, so that way, no matter which way this thing goes, for the record, for the minute taking, and for Rob later and preparing whatever order prepared, I think let's just do it this way. Since per section 42-100B8, in order to approve this application, you guys must make findings that the proposed special use does 4 certain things. So let's take each one by one. Let's start with A. Do you guys, in discussion, you guys have, I'm not saying vote, just discuss, does the proposed special use materially, or do you make a finding that it does not materially endanger the public health or safety? So you've got to find that it does not endanger public health or safety.
Leaching septic tanks into there, going into Kitty Hawk Bay. My boss died 2 years ago from a bacteria infection, and they pretty much directly relate that to E. coli from the bacteria coming out of the septic. So when there is assumptions that, you know, when the man said, you know, how do we do it? I'm a waterman, I work on the water. Years ago, crabs didn't die in the bottom of our pots. When the water gets stagnant, the bacteria didn't go. It didn't happen. Now we have dead crabs, and every time the tide quits moving, when the Kool-Aid separates, I say, the bad water sinks to the bottom and everything down there dies. The bacteria is real. We've had several deaths here on the Outer Banks. We're closing our popular swimming areas, one right after the other. In the peak of our tourist season, we're telling people don't get in the water. As a commercial fisherman, and I'm sure my fellow commercial fishermen will join with me, we worry that someday somebody will say, hey, y'all can't eat the seafood coming out of the Albemarle Sound, Pamlico Sound, Neuse River. It's a scare. We make a living You know, like you make a living off campgrounds. We make a living off this water, and we are very concerned about what's going in it. So I think this is very dense, me personally, but we're talking about endangering. So I think the proof's in the pudding of the bacteria and the state shutting down Jockey's Ridge Swimming Hole, Collington Harbor Park, Southern Shores Boat Park. All of those are closed down every summer when they test because of the bacteria. More and more of the island, look, we're floating barrier sand. We can't hold much more. I know it seems dense to me, and I worry about the safety of the people around. The kids playing in the little, say it rains and a kid running out there. I mean, that's a lot of septic tanks leaching into Ash Swamp.
And on the septic, since you brought that up, does that have anything to do with the low-lying area that we're talking about, such as the acknowledge and conserve?
Yes, and you know, we all operate on septic tanks, and mine is just as guilty as yours would be. I'm not saying mine's any different. I don't think they're not a very good method anymore. When I first built my house, my yard didn't flood. My septic stayed dry all the time. In 30 years, in the last 10, it's just the water table's rising. So I have concerns about the health. I have the concerns about the health of the fish and the turtles and everything that's in that ash swamp. That swamp's full of white egrets, so, you know, sometimes 20, 30 at a time that come there every single day that'll be drinking that water, you know. So yeah, I have concerns about the health of not only people, but of the nature that's in Ash Swamp. So that's addressing that.
I'd like to add to that the public safety, adding additional flow to a curb cut so close to an existing intersection without hearing from an expert in that traffic field. I'm unsure that it could be additional public safety or lack of public safety.
No traffic study presentation, no expert testifying as to those items?
Correct.
I as well, with the traffic, have an issue with safety, simply from the standpoint, I know that the fire chief talked to, not having some concern, but I worry that if something happens, a flash fire, anything like that, or mass casualty, fire, grill blows up, propane tank blows up, and next thing you know, if I was there, I'm going to jump in my RV and I'm going to get it out as fast as I can because I don't want the guy next door catching me on fire. And now I'm just blocking the road for any, cars coming in and out. Single lane all the way back to a dead end just doesn't sit well with me. So that's a concern I have as well.
And I'll also add, we don't know what the easement is. It could be 10 feet. She could put a fence on both sides and we couldn't get a fire truck through there, period. We don't really know what the easement is. So right now, we don't really know how wide the easement is to get onto this property. So we don't know what the passing is going to be. I do know the easement at one time was not sufficient for another person to build an RV park until they got a right of way. Now, why it's different here, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
I'm going to get back to Councilman Pruitt with his, with the ordinances and making sure we're complying.
Well, that's up next. That's
Okay.
That's B. So
Okay.
if we're ready to move on, we'll go to B, which is,
B.
is there a finding, and David, Councilman Hines, lead off with that. Does this particular application meet all required conditions and specifications of our ordinance?
For me, it does not.
Okay. You want to elaborate?
Pretty much going back to the first round of questions. There's just some, like the easement, I mean, there's unknowns, I mean.
Road length?
And I'll bring up some issues that I took down while y'all were,
And for the record,
while y'all were
I'm
discussing.
not totally, I like the idea of having.
Right. We're just talking very particular as to what our ordinance says. There was the issue with the 80-foot right-of-way turnaround in diameter. If I recall correctly, I believe Rob testified that he did not believe that the proposal itself evidenced what the intent of that particular ordinance provision was. The applicant, of course, had an engineer that said, yes, put things out there for y'all's consideration. The other issue, I believe, Councilman Tillett brought up was that the issue of the road into the park not exceeding 1,000 feet being measured from the park entrance. I do believe the testimony was that the park entrance was going to be from starting at essentially the public right of way at the Baum property, and measuring from there, it did exceed 1,000 feet, maybe 1,090. I believe is what Rob's report said.
1090.
And there was a shall in front of that as well. Y'all have heard my spiel on my thoughts on the shall. So those are two that I recall. But if there are any,
There was one more, and we had talked about moving the recreation facility. I mean, I can't see a kid's playground going on top of a septic field behind the bathhouse. But there was, adjustments that could be made for that.
all right. C, will not, you have to make a finding that it will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property. So that's kind of two-part here.
Actually, could I go back to?
Oh, sure.
To B, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
But there is, we talk about required conditions, specifications. And this could be my opinion, but specifications for me is that the CAMA land use plan is a guiding document.
And on D, you're going to.
And that'll come in, it comes in on D as well.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yep. So as the C, again, will it not substantially injure the value of adjoining property? I would submit that I think Mr. Bourne's report on value was sufficient. That's my legal opinion on that, just to cut that short and suffice. Now, there is another provision here that says, or a public nuisance. So that's another item with C. I don't know if you guys have any comments on whether or not this would constitute a public nuisance potentially.
The only thing I'd like is when the appraiser did the adjoining property and you look at the commercial district, the only reason that was allowed is because there was a trade, you go commercial, and they gave us 540 acres to the coastal reserve. So it really isn't in harmony, but in order to get 540 acres that were never going to be ever disturbed again, it was a kind of a trade back. That's the reason that when you see the garden center, the provision was if they'd let them build the communication tower, the storage building, and the garden center, you give the town 540. So it's really, yeah, it's in harmony, but they paid, with a lot of land, so there was a good return.
For public nuisance, my only concern would be, noise levels around, your nice quiet pond. If I live there, now it's going to have 30 more sites of people recreating and that sort of thing, which is good. But I do appreciate the current owner right now ensuring that his current property has been cleaned up and taken care of, and I very much appreciate that. So I think that you would be able to keep that hopefully under control. So.
Okay. Anyone else on that? If not, we'll go to D, which I've heard a lot of commentary about during this proceeding. And we'll break it down into two parts. A, will the application be in harmony with the area in which it is located? That's item 1. Thoughts on the harmonious nature. And it is true when you're looking at this, one of the considerations you have to make are, not the only, but the uses that surround the particular proposed development. That is certainly a consideration. Not saying it's the only, but it is certainly a consideration when you
I don't find it to be non-harmonious personally.
So you find it to be in harmony? You believe it is harmony?
I don't think you'll even really see it.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't think it's in harmony with that amount of density. I believe the site plan could be modified with less and be way more, they keep talking about trees, leaving trees, and I don't know, what do I count, 8, I think? John? I mean, the rest of it's over in the swamp that you couldn't cut down anyway, I don't think. I don't see but about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
9, 10, 11.
No, you're not counting up in the swamp, are you, or down in the repair?
That 30-foot buffer.
I'm talking about it right out where the trailers are. I only see 8.
When you see all of those little flower-like things, those are all the trees that we're leaving.
Are you talking in Ash Swamp?
No, not in the swamp, but that.
On the east side.
buffer's under there.
In the buffer, but actually out in the trailer park itself on the flats.
Let me just count a few of them. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, just on this lower half alone.
Yeah, but I said, but you're counting all down in the orange and all that. I'm talking, but how about in the white area?
The white area is the swamp, up at the top.
No.
The white clear
The white
area
is
where all
between
the
the RV
spaces
sites.
are.
You're talking about on the east side.
There still is trees being left in those areas.
We got to that center, right?
But the question is since we're talking about trees and picking numbers of trees, how many are being cut down as opposed to being left?
That's not in the ordinance. That's not in our ordinance.
No, but it's in the land use
What we did
plan.
is we went out there, we had them all located. We had them all located by the survey.
Mm-hmm.
And then we tried to work around the ones that we could. I mean, I'm a big preservation, tree preservation type person. We've preserved a lot of trees on a lot of developments that I've done.
Sure.
But you gotta look at the uses.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've also got to look at the CAM land use plan, which, says we can't be chopping down trees,
Minimizing impacts.
minimizing.
That's the very next item in D. So go ahead and discuss that, whether or not it's in general conformity with the comprehensive plan.
I'd like to make a statement that I agree with the entire statement Councilman Mance said about the policies in the land use plan.
And that was while Mr. Hornick was performing his closing argument, is that, or closing comments?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Got it. And Mr. Mance, do you have any other comments on the land use plan issue?
No, I just.
And/or the adapt and conserve and acknowledge and conserve?
Yeah, I mean, nothing that I haven't already said, unless it needs to be repeating.
No, I mean, if you guys all recall what Mr. Mance said while on the record, while Mr. Hornick was issuing his
That's why I wanted to say
closing
it
comments.
while I was on the record.
If he adopts those comments right now, I believe that to be sufficient. I think he does. All right. Any more discussion then? And y'all can, Mayor, please take it away and vote on each item if you would. However, just go down A through D. Just as to whether or not these.
Can you read each item again?
Yeah, oh, you want me to do it that way? Let's do it that way. Okay. So, now you guys are gonna vote.
But we're gonna vote on the whole thing. Either we're gonna approve this site plan or not. I mean, we're not gonna sit here and prove each little condition.
No. What, we can do it another way.
All right.
You have to make findings on all of these.
Okay.
So that's the only reason I was gonna say, so if any of these are a no, then it doesn't, you're not gonna likely approve it. You're not going to approve it because you must make findings that it does not materially endanger the public health or safety. And do you vote on that particular issue?
I don't believe we have enough evidence to prove that it.
Or not vote, but just, the answer I think was no to that based on your discussion. You don't have enough evidence to determine whether it does or not. Does not meet all required conditions and specifications based on your comments.
Does not.
Do you think you guys agree that it will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or be a public nuisance? That was agreed upon. And then, however, Councilman Pruitt said that he did not believe it would be in harmony with the area in which it was located. And then Councilman Vance made comments that were adopted by Councilman Tillett concerning the general conformity or lack of general conformity with the comprehensive plan. So having made those particular findings, now it can go to a traditional motion.
Okay. what do you, what do you want to do with this matter? Do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to deny the proposed conditional use permit or special use permit for an RV park at 4352B The Woods Road due to the findings that the attorney just listed.
And that's why I did it that way. Yes, yes. So that is the motion, same second, and then vote.
May I ask a question in between the voting?
Sure.
So if it gets,
Well, actually, let's get a second first, and then you can discuss.
Second.
Okay.
so if it gets denied tonight, they can still come back and modify and bring everything back.
Correct, yeah, you're right, if there are modifications to the actual
So
proposal.
so if we deny it tonight, they can still come back and fix the things we had concerns about.
They've heard our concerns, so.
Correct.
yeah. And it doesn't go back to the planning board, right?
No, it would.
No.
In that particular case, the way our ordinance reads right now, it would.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're voting up or down, not on conditions.
Yes, correct. So you made that's why I had you go through each. You had to make findings on each condition, and now you're just voting, as Councilman Pruitt said, on whether or not you're denying it or not. With the reasoning being that it doesn't meet the conditions. It doesn't meet A, B, or D of section 42-100B8.
As currently presented.
As currently presented. That's what's on the table.
Okay. Well, we've had a motion, we have a second, and we need to vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Well, we're denying the motion. But they have the information that they need to come back. Let's go to something easy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Santa Claus will be late coming. He's not happy.
Yeah, great.
But this, we're gonna.
All right, appreciate that.
Sorry about that, y'all. That's when-
fine. You just
when
hop
you
in
wind up
here.
in court over stuff like that,
Right.
that's not making those specific findings is where we run into
Well-
the issue. But you did great in that
All
particular.
right. All right, next we need to nominate a Recreation Committee member.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, I'd like to nominate Linda Allgood for a position on the Recreation Committee.
I'll make a second to that.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got that one right.
Yay! Oh, yes. I'm so proud of that. Yeah, that's right.
Let's get back to my notes here.
Okay. Melody, do you have anything to say, or do we need an intermission?
Yeah,
or- What do we need to do
Do
here?
I have anything to say? Actually, not much today.
Okay.
But I just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year. 2025 was a year where a lot of things came together for our town. And I think everyone feels like we've made some solid progress on some key priorities, and while keeping the day-to-day services of our community going and running smoothly. So I'm so proud of our staff for their day-to-day efforts, their commitment to training and the handling new products and priorities. As we move into 2026, the town is in good place. We have better facilities, stronger systems, a skilled workforce, and a clearer path forward. Speaking of that, on your consent agenda, you approved the budget calendar. That will be in the forefront of at least most of our department heads' minds and my mind, and even you guys. That will be filtering down to you.
We approved the calendar, our budget retreat, where we all get together, which is a public meeting, will be held on March the 18th at 9 a.m., we believe at the police department this year. Also, just kind of following up, you had at your places tonight policies that were given to you a while back that you asked to kind of put aside until February. Again, I'm hoping that we can work through these things and any questions that you have, maybe, and not have a 3-hour meeting about them. Self-serving maybe. But yeah, so you have these, and I hope you have ample time to review it and ask questions. And other than that, Christmas tree pickup is ongoing, and place your undecorated tinsel-free Christmas tree along the curbside, and they'll be picked up in a timely manner. You can also drop your tree off at the Kitty Hawk Bathhouse, and that way it will definitely be used for dune restoration. And that's all I have.
How about from the town attorney?
I've talked a lot. Happy New Year, guys, and what a meeting to start the new year off.
I'm telling you, what an,
3-hour get out.
what an initiation
But
here.
nothing else for me there.
All right. And town council, Dylan, do you have anything?
Just want to send a special thanks to Rob for his hard work in the past 2 quasi-judicial hearings, month to month, back to back. Nice work. Everything was very laid out, and we appreciate your hard work on all of it. Anytime I have questions to Rob, I call him or email him, and I get a response just like that, and it's very appreciated, Rob. Thank you.
Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Rob, as always. We had a chance to go to the Wright Brothers and celebration, and we had the honor of the students had built an airplane, and I thought how neat it was that the educators and the Park Service of our area came together to rebuild an airplane, first one since Orville and Wilbur built it on that site. And I just want to give a shout out to our educators, Mr. Bass Knight, for a fine job I think he's doing with our schools and all the teachers that are educating our kids here. And that was very impressive, what I saw. That's it.
Well said.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do you have anything tonight, David?
Oh, congratulations to the new Recreation Committee appointee, and that's it.
Okay. And Pete?
Yes, ma'am. Just real quick, want to thank Melody for the year wrap-up. What a fantastic time. Everything from the parade with the fire department and the police department running that thing, that was just amazing. I know we didn't have a chance to thank you guys for that, so amazing job. Thank you for all that write-up. I think that should go somewhere in social media, all the stuff that the town has accomplished in the last year. It's eye-watering, so thank you for putting that together. I know that takes time, especially when you're getting ready to go on your holiday. And I want to thank everybody tonight, everybody that participated. These things aren't hard, and I know it's hard to step up and have the courage to say what's on your mind, and all those that spent all the hours preparation. And you know, all we can do is hope that we made the right decision tonight, and thank everybody for all their input. So.
Okay. And I would like to thank all the department heads for the work that went into our Christmas caravan. It was amazing. It was wonderful. And to see all the children light up and make it possible for the parents to get pictures with Santa, and it was amazing from start to finish, safe, and everything went quite well. And I appreciate being a part of that. And there's one more thing we have to recognize, or we'd like to recognize, and that is Melody Clopton's 15 years of service to this town.
I don't like you to center of attention.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now.